right, BIC podcast number 123, episode 123. Ovechkin is the new NHL all-time goal leader, and in an extended pre-show before we even started recording, Eric has already hashtag divested millions and millions of dollars worth of Ovechkins. That like button rate will be unbelievable. He will give us more hashtag invest advice as he carefully figures out how he's going to spend his new fortune on his mega yacht called hashtag thanks Ovi. That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. We're here under the watchful gaze of Brett Favre. Few people knew. Eric, we didn't realize that you were quite the Ovi robber baron.
I'm always so impressed during these introductions on Monday, how you know more about what goes on in my life than I do, because I knew none of that.
Eric, you've had a lot of concussions.
Unfortunately, yes.
You must realize this is probably an idiot savant thing. You probably didn't even realize you were making these savvy market moves. Like this whole thing with the stock market right now, at the time that we're recording it, Eric shorted the entire market. He basically said, I want to bet you're all fucked. And he's like, you're right. You're rich. You're Mr. Moneybags and you don't even know it.
I was not aware.
Unbelievable. And Brandon, can you believe the negativity? The man was literally betting against the entire economy.
Yeah,
Damn.
I mean,
Damn.
he timed it perfect. You know,
He really did.
As an investor, when the stocks are going down, he knew that Ovi was going up, and he's been stashing them secretively, all along, and then just dumped them.
Who knew that the important move was to know not when to hashtag invest? It was key was to know when to hashtag divest.
Yep, and he timed it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You and the people watching may or may not, I don't know. If you know me, I guess well enough, you're not surprised. But gun to my head, I could not go into my collection and pull out even an OV base card. I have nothing. I have nothing of him in this collection. Not even a base card that came with junk. I have nothing of his.
All right, you know what this means? You know what this means, Brandon? I think during the expo, I'll have to talk to people who know people. I think we're just going to have to pelt Eric viciously, mercilessly.
I thought you collected hockey cards, Eric.
Exactly.
I do.
And yet, not a single card of the leading goal scorer in the history of the National Hockey League.
Nothing. No.
Trash. Unbelievable.
Man. No wonder. Josh, he always tells you to shut up. You need to start saying, shut up, Eric.
Yeah, you tell Eric to shut up.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is the one with the Ovi collection. He was showing off some nice stuff the other day. So
he knows. Obviously, Josh knows what he's doing. Some of us need to work on our situation over there. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll definitely talk about that as well. We can give a little context and give a little bit of thoughts on it. And we will give a little bit of a card angle as well, because obviously the curiosity was leading into it, how things were going to go. Obviously, we're monitoring now in the post, now that the record has been broken. I'll give you a little historical context into the player as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll kind of interweave it with some general stories, a little bit of collecting stuff. So I'll touch on that, and then we'll go from there. But let's start off with the silly card of the week. So as always, we want to thank our friends at AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca, and the YouTube channel of the same name, AMG Collectibles. We will be back with another podcast episode. This will drop on the Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll drop an episode there with the collector, the Scallops collector, the people. He did have some cards that he showcased for me, and it looks like this week we're going to be doing SPX. So maybe as part of our discussion, since we're talking the hockeys, Eric, you know what? I'm going to make this the hockeys episode just for you in honor of your hashtag divest. We may even get a shameless Brandon pump for J-Rob. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it might. Just throwing it out there. So we'll thematically make it the hockeys today. Why not? And as part of that, though, the SPX is the new series that is coming out. I'll spend a little bit more time reviewing it on that podcast. We'll talk about it. But otherwise, you can check out the store and check out a lot of things related to it. Links in the description. We thank AMG for supporting the podcast and the channel. So let's do the silly card of the week. But before we do, let's give the results of last week's episode.
Okay.
So last week we
lost.
Last week we got 42 votes on this one. We had the Kirby Puckett card. We had the You Can't See Me John Cena tribute. And we had the picture day where Eric, again, takes a very normal moment and tries to make it into something he thinks is wild and wacky. So Kirby got 31% of the popular vote. The
Nice.
You Can't See Me card got 26% of the popular vote. And this week's winner is Picture Day.
Really? Awesome. What was the percentage on that?
43.
43% all agree that this is ridiculous.
And maybe we should just have more of it. That's all I'm saying. We need some more Picture Day stuff. But it is the true democracy in this world. All the votes are counted. So you will see another community post this week with the latest additions to this silly card of the week. So vote early and vote often. We count every single vote. So thank you all for participating in that. All right, so let's get into this one here. I've got the 3 cards teed up here for us, so we'll get into it. So Brandon, I'm going to start with yours, I believe. So I believe this one belongs to you. So hold on here. I'll share it on the screen. You're going to want to see it on the screen, by the way. Visuals will help with this one. We got some UFC finest grill gear.
I'm going to be very blatantly honest to all of the viewers, listeners, everybody. I don't know if these are real cards. There was actually 2 cards in the picture. I cropped it out and just went with green hair guy, who looked like he colored his mouthpiece with blue Sharpie or something. But anyway, somebody posted these. They were very passionately excited about them. It looks though that they might be a custom because that finest looks like Topps finest. And it says UFC finest instead of Topps finest. However, fake, real, whatever. We don't need to get into mouthpieces and stuff as relics. The hygiene level and all of that stuff. We're getting a little too much here with these ideas. So if this is real, it's a big no for me. But anyways,
I wait till Carlo starts collecting Fish Boy's card with his cup in it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it might be something that somebody just had fun and made custom cards. There was 2 fighters; they had 2 of them. So I don't know if maybe they collected those relics from the fighters. They're big UFC fans. I don't know. I guess it's a thing.
Just to help you out, I went to the eBays and I was able to find a different card.
I was honestly, for everybody, I was hoping it was fake.
Oh, it's got to be super thick.
Yeah,
I just got to look at it. Like, look at this thing.
I mean, this thing has to be literally a brick.
The thing is, you can literally see it elevating in front of the other card if you look at it.
Yeah. We're talking Hal freaking Gill type level of thickness here. Okay.
I honestly was hoping it was just somebody having fun and being creative and made it themselves. I didn't know that it was real. So
listen, all I gotta say is now you know. And kind of in response to Eric's comment, for the last time, I'm not buying your card. Like, stop it. You keep it for yourself. It's part of your PC. You have a custom case for it.
I do.
Eric was talking about the Fish Boy, cup card. And it's like Eric has a custom case for it. He's got a lucite on top of a lucite inside of a Beckett holder.
Well,
it's very exciting. Gotta have it inside of a Beckett holder.
Size of a briefcase.
So, a card that is almost as exciting. Almost. Yeah. Eric, we're going to talk about your silly card of the week now.
Oh, good.
I think we need to discuss this. And I'm going to point out something as we get into it, but let's start off with it here. We're talking about Eric's favorite insert, UD Portraits, the insert that he applauds Billy every single time for. He literally is like, Billy, I have these in triplicate.
Yes. So what I love about this the most is that, it takes you back to
high school for you. Go
on. A time with Knights of the Round Table. And that was a handful of years ago. It was about 3-4 years before I was born. But I look at this as a historic piece, and I think that this was the first picture of a burlesque dancer, because if you look closely, you have the pasties. These are the first pasties in human history. And you have the belly chains. So I truly believe that this is a historic picture of the first burlesque dancer in history.
Brandon, my first thought here, and I'm being 5% more mature. My first thought here is I'm deeply concerned that this is the first place Eric's mind goes. Literally the first place. And let me tell you, on Friday, we're going to have a deeper discussion on this. And all I have to say is Emmanuel in space. I'm just warning y'all, it's coming. But for now, I'm going to mostly let it slide. Is there any comment that you would like to make before I go to the third card?
No, I mean, you're right, though. Eric loves these. He sent me one in the mail. Yeah.
Yep.
He sent me a card of these. So, no surprise here from Eric. I wasn't going pasties route, but
I reemphasize, this is where Eric's mind goes to automatically, all on its own, all by itself.
If you don't see this and think pasties and belly chains,
I'm going to remind you, if you see the proximity of where they are in location in terms of distance from each other, Eric, that is not anatomically correct.
Well,
there's a problem there, Eric.
People's bodies were a little different back in the day.
Sure.
Yeah, they were smaller, shorter. You know, they only.
I think you were looking for something you were hoping was there. Is all I'm saying.
So, anyways, that's what I think Kyle Connor's doing here. Is he's the first burlesque dancer in human history.
Interesting. I see. That is an angle. Spoiler. The name for this I will be using is #art. Just for Eric. #art.
It should be #pasties.
Anyway. Again, we talk about the man for body dysmorphia. You can't tell the size of things. Like the location of things is apparently also a challenge. I'm just throwing that out there. All right, last one here for today. We're going a little OG. We're going a little old school. I had myself a conversation on Big Scott 35's live stream on Sunday, and we were actually talking about the 52 Topps Mantle. So I had a little discussion talking about the 52 Topps Mantle and why it ended up becoming the card that it did. I'll leave a link in the description to it if you want to check it out. I did, of course, give some fun, additional theories, but I also gave some legitimate theories and rationale for why it might be the case. But this is kind of a classic card. This is the Gus Zernial of the Philadelphia Athletics. And I forget what it's to commemorate, but there is a significance to the baseballs there, the amount of baseballs there. It's for something he did actually in a couple of games or something. It's part of a record or something he did. But it's always been an interesting card there, that he's got a card there giving, the A-OK, and then he's got 6 baseballs, defying gravity on his bat. Very classic.
Did they have, and I'm being serious here, did they have Velcro in the 50s? That didn't come out until later, I don't think.
We'll have to get the facts department on this, but yeah, I think they taped it. I think they taped it on there, to be honest.
How did they get those on there in the 1950s?
Nailed them.
Yeah, they might have just nailed them onto it. Yeah, I'll see if I can find the original picture. I just always thought this was. By the way, this is the real card. This is 1952 Topps Gus Zernial. So if you could check it out, it is the real card. It's always been one of the more interesting pictures in that particular set.
Does he have a big old knot above his what would be his right eye? Or is it just like a shadowing in the card?
I think it's a shadow, to be honest. I'm not sure, but I think from my perspective, it looks like a shadow. But it's kind of interesting. So this is one of those ones, Eric, that you could stare at for a bit and you'd see some interesting things. I always thought this was by the way, if you notice the shade of yellow on the bottom of the bat and then the wood color. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on with this card.
Because I wear pink. I think pink polo and pink Argyle socks. I used to wear them all the time to work into the office. I have no problem with men wearing pink, but in 1953, no man in the world wore pink. So
if you have a baseball bat with 6 baseballs attached to it defying gravity and your name is Gus, then you're fucking wearing pink, Eric.
Yeah. So
and you have a Z in your name.
So I find that interesting.
Listen, you try to tell Gus he can't do it, he will beat you to death with his 6 baseball bat.
Yeah.
You'll get it. So those are our choices. Silly card of the week. We thank AMG for supporting the podcast and the channel. And I'll see if I can find the original kind of the story behind that, because I remember there was a story to that photo that was specifically to that. But I always thought that was one of the more interesting 52 Topps cards. I always enjoyed that one, and I thought that would be worthy to bring it. And Eric, again, in honor of a little vintage into it.
Love vintage.
It's a classic card right there. All right, so let's touch on this for a bit. Before I do, though, real quick, I will touch on one specific thing that I wanted to make sure I hit on, and that is right now I am finding, so I'm in the final stages of starting to set aside some fundages for the Spring Expo, so that'll be forthcoming here in the next couple of weeks. We'll finalize plans and everything on it. The week of the expo, my intention is to do the podcast as a live. So I want that to be a live episode on there so that we've got it live regardless that week. My plan is still to do a live during the expo, either on Friday or Saturday. I'm not sure. I'll figure it out. But depending on how schedules and things work out. But regardless, as usual, there will be a live stream on the channel, which is always what I'm going to make sure happens. And then we'll go from there. Because worst comes to worst, I could always come back on Sunday and do a live stream. But if preferable, I'll try to do it during the actual expo itself proper. But specifically, in addition to that programming note, I'm preparing all that, getting the money set aside. All so far so good, looking good in that regard. The consolidation plan is working good. This week though, no big pickups because unfortunately I was just outbid. I was telling the guys before I went live, before we went recording here, is that yeah, I'm getting outbid on some of those late '90s ones that I'm looking out for. It's getting tough on these streets, man. Some of these people are like bidding aggressive. What I was going to say though is that it's very tough when you've got something that doesn't get listed very often, and you're trying to work out like, okay, so what's appropriate? And then you go try to look at comps of some of the other players. Like, hey, what are some comparable players? How are the pricing relating to that? And it went for higher than I thought, to be honest. I thought I made a mega bid, but turns out I didn't. My mega bid got outbid. My mega bid got outbid. So I was like, whoa. And lucky for me, it looks like it kind of dragged another one out of the woodwork from another collector that I know had one. I guess he decided he wanted to go off of it. So the big question is going to be, does the first sale drive additional people eyeballs and attention to the second sale, or does the fact that the high bidder outbid me in a very strong bid discourage the other folks from attacking the second one? It could go either way. I genuinely don't know. So we'll see. I guess I'll report back. Once I know what the results are, I'll be able to report back and discuss. By the next podcast episode, I'll know one way or the other. So maybe I'll have another pickup before the expo. If not, it's okay. Then I'll just leave those funds available for the expo, and that should be fun. So we'll see about that one. Now, all that said, let's talk about some Ovi. Ovechkin was, marching towards the Gretzky record. It was coming, and it ended up happening on the game against the Islanders, in a matinee game in the afternoon, which was kind of interesting. A couple of quick notes. I'm glad that the ceremony. I watched the ceremony in its entirety. I didn't watch it live, but I watched the goal and I watched the ceremony and everything. I thought it was tasteful. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. It didn't take forever, but they still gave it. It's still. Was that
there? Now remember, we talked about this on Friday. I think that the NHL told them they only had 7 minutes.
Cool. They took him half an hour. Gary Bettman was on the ice. It took half an hour. Like they took as much damn time as they wanted. Everybody took their time. Nobody was rushing. Nobody was rushing. Yeah, nobody was rushing anything. But they didn't stay there for the rest of our lives. They did get everything they needed to get done. Everybody needed to spoke. And then at the end of it, they took a picture. And from what I understand, Fanatics has actually taken the carpet they use where everybody's standing on it, is actually going to be cut up into like memorabilia relic pieces for some stuff that Fanatics is going to have. Of course, listen, you're taking advantage of it. You got the rights to it. It's the carpet. People were standing on it, so like you can use it.
Put it in a card. I thought I saw. I thought
something like that. Yeah.
And serious, not because it's hard to tell sometimes with jokes and things like that on the old interwebs, but I think they were serious when I read that Upper Deck is going to take pieces of it and put it in an Ovi set.
They're going to have an Ovechkin set with autographs and stuff like that. And I think, like I said, that the relic is going to be part of that because Gretzky and Ovechkin and his family and all those people were standing on it. And it's a big piece of like fabric and, material. It gives them a lot of pieces that they could do and still be able to produce it. And it was legitimately involved in the event. So everybody says, hey, I want game use or I want event specifically from that event. And the photo op that everybody took with it. And it was part of what was rolled onto the ice when they did it. So good. I think tastefully done.
I know Foco did like 8 or 10 different bobblehead option things that you could get capturing the moment and everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. If you're going to capitalize on it, you may as well. I will say, though, I did hear, from what I understand, the Islanders had a thing. So obviously, that physical tickets are kind of have gone the way of the dinosaur. Yeah. But apparently the Islanders, if you were at the game, for a mere $75, they'll print you a physical ticket. So you could pay them for the privilege. You could pay them for the privilege of getting a physical ticket if you so desire, if you want one.
Yeah, because what did those people pay? Like, what would they say the cheapest was? Like
some of them were like $1,200. Yeah, like
Yeah, I think they said the
1,000
cheapest
plus.
is 6.
Yeah. And you can pay another $75 to get a physical ticket. Come on, Eric.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what tells you we don't have physical tickets anymore. Now you have to specifically request them and pay extra for the privilege. It's an unfortunate turn of events, but it is what it is. One other thing I was going to say though is that no, I think it was done well. What I'm happy about is that I'm glad that it was a legitimate goal, not an empty netter. So we talked about it, and the night before he
Nice.
did have a chance. He did have a chance to do it, and it was a good goal. Like it was a nice goal from his spot. Great shot. Like a really.
Sure.
It was a proper Ovechkin wrist shot, hit his spot, got it past the goaltender. That's legit full value for that one. He got all of it and he got the goal the way it probably should have been done.
Well, they said that the night before, when he tied the record and they had the empty net open, he told his coach he didn't want to do it that way. And so that's mad respect for him that he understood the importance of the record and didn't want to take it in a cheesy way. But then it was also cool. I think they said, wasn't it Carlson got the assist on the tying, and then Wilson got the assist on the record breaking. So like those two are ones that have played with him for, you know, a good portion of his career. They said Backstrom and Oshie was at the game, which obviously were also, you know, Backstrom I think's got more assists with him than anybody else and more games played and everything. So it was, I think it was cool all the way around and well done. So.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about the card angle here in a second. But a couple of fun, notable notes. Go ahead.
Just real quick on when Brandon was talking about how Ovi's like, I don't want to score the record breaker in an empty net, and he was kind of saying, you know, putting fate in his own hands. Like I'll have the rest of these games. Hopefully, I'll do it right. All I could think about was Ted Williams. You guys are baseball guys. You may remember that at the end of Ted Williams' 400 season, when he had a batting average over 400, I think it was 401, I think.
Yeah, he could have taken the game off and cleared it, but he decided to play.
The manager told him, you don't need to play. You can be done right now and end the season at 401. And Ted would have none of that. And he went up and he hit, and I think he hit a home run or something. And that's what superstars do. That is what true Hall of Famers do, legends do. And I was very impressed with that. You know, I definitely think he should be applauded for that, because I don't know how many players would do that. I mean, they're thinking their legacy, they're thinking money, you know, if they all this stuff. And no, he was like, no, I don't want to do it that way. And
even outside of that, he could have went ahead and done it, because it would have been in front of the home crowd. It would have been a hat trick. It would have broken the record. Like, there were so many things there that could have been added to it if he had just went ahead. But he knew that in a respectful manner, I think, he felt it wouldn't be right to, like, if he had already broke it, you know, if like the second goal broke it, I think he'd have been out there just, you know, pounding it at the empty net, you know, adding on, tacking onto it.
Who cares after that? Right.
He didn't want it done that way. And he probably also realizes a lot of his goals have came on empty nets, and they've helped him get to that plateau, but he didn't want to do it in that way. And you got to commend him for that. So.
I do. I that impresses the hell out of me, because I don't have a lot of faith in today's athletes. Their attitudes toward things, the way they do things, the way they handle themselves. I just don't have a lot of faith in today's modern day athlete in any sport.
Well, so look at
see some old school there.
What was it, about a week ago, maybe a week and a half, when he went and got all of the players out of the tunnel and told them all to come back and
for Marc-Andre Fleury's
game, yeah. I mean, that right there, you know,
in Washington, yeah,
that was a lot of respect too.
Yeah,
for him to show Fleury that.
You know, you really can't. I mean, you could be a Gretzky fan and be, tried and true Gretzky fan and hate the fact that anybody has broke his record and stuff. But I've paid attention to this guy for 20 years. I just can't find anything really wrong with him. I don't think he's been involved in any real controversies. He's played hard. He's having fun. Every single goal this guy scores, he celebrates like it's his first one.
I love that
he loves playing this game. I think he's been a good ambassador and good representative. I know that there's some heat he takes about still supporting his home country, but I think there's a lot that goes on with that. I think he's kind of handcuffed and damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a situation. But I just don't see how you can not be a fan of this guy, or at least respect him as a player. I mean, there's so many other professional athletes that I just have no use for at all. And I just can't think of anything bad to say about the guy.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yeah,
except for the teeth. The teeth need to be fixed.
As
a gap there. You can fix the teeth.
As a father, do that. I love that he has his kids so much involved in it. Like that seat up at the glass, I'm pretty sure he's bought that seat for Ovi Jr. to sit there. And every time he scores at home and he's sitting there, he goes over and high fives it at the glass. And, that's something that at least Ovi Jr., I don't know if the youngest is old enough to really grasp it, but Ovi Jr. is going to carry that and those memories and that bond his entire life, and that the record and all that is great, but that bond with his son now, like that's something you can't replace. So you have to, that's just another element of the respect you got to give him. So
sure, I think it makes sense. Let me what I wanted to touch on was I'll give you a couple of fun little factoids to go along with the obvious. So let's touch on a few things that are kind of interesting because I did a little research, a little bit of a look into it. Obviously, we know 895 goals. That is the record. Most amount of goals in the NHL. A couple of other records, though, that he's got kind of going along with it. Because that was also a power play goal that he scored to break the record. That was his 325th power play goal. He is the all-time leader in power play goals. He's also the all-time leader in game-winning goals. So he's got that record as well. He's got the most shots on goal. He got the NHL record for that. Now, here's an interesting one that not a lot of folks may pick up on because it's a little bit obscure because they do break down. Obviously, you got goals, but then you got the different types of goals. I just talked about the power play goal record. But here's an interesting one. The next even strength goal he scores. So if he scores another goal at even strength, he would be tied for second all time in even strength goals. So Gretzky still has the record for even strength goals. He's surpassed the record on some of these other categories, but on even strength. But here's a fun little trivia note. Who is the number 2 currently in even strength goals in the NHL?
Jason Robertson.
Remember,
obviously.
Do you want to take it? You got to remember, in order to be a leader in even strength goals, you got to be right at the top of the goal charts. So think the absolute top, tippy top. Who has the most? Gretzky has the most. Just to make it easy for you, Gretzky has the most.
Right.
Who has number 2?
Players.
No, I'm saying all time. I'm talking all time.
All right, ask me the question again now that I know it's over.
Who has the second most? So Gretzky is number 1. Who has the second most even strength goals? So even strength, regular season goals in NHL history, all time.
Jaromir Jagr.
That's very close. You're very close on that one. He is actually right up there. So I'll give you. So Brandon, do you want to take one more shot at it? An actual one?
Well, since he said Jagr, you said close. I'll go Lemieux.
Okay, not a bad choice either. So the number 2 is Gordy. Gordy is the second most even strength goals. He's got 566 even strength goals. Gretzky is number 1 with 617 even strength goals. And Ovechkin is third with 565. The reason I said you're close is Jagr is 4th with 538 even strength goals, which over 500 even strength goals for all these guys. Very impressive. But here's a fun one for you. Number 5, Marcel. Number 5 is Marcel Dion. with 478 even strength goals in his career. Again, you've got other categories. You've got power play goals. You've got the empty netters are a separate category. We're talking even strength, 5-on-5 or whatever the case may be, goals. But one more, and he's in a two-way tie with Gordie Howe for even strength goals all time. Two more if he manages. He would actually take over second by himself in even strength goals. So it's just another category of goals, all these different subcategories of goals, that he's either number one or right there, number one or number two in all time.
So this is going to be a noob sounding question.
Go ahead.
But with the advancement of hockey and changes in rules and everything, is there more, less, or about the same penalties, penalty minutes, and all that in hockey today than when it was set back, Gretzky and then obviously Gordie?
So it goes in waves. There have been different eras. So when you're talking about power plays, when you're doing power plays, you'll have these initiatives that'll come out. So like when they start calling certain things, there'll be a rash of them, and suddenly there'll be an influx, an increase in the amount of power play. And then the players figure it out and it settles down. So it'll do this, it'll spike, and then it'll just come down, and then suddenly it'll settle for a while. And then there'll be some other rule change, and then it'll spike for a bit and then settle down. It's gone in different ways. So even in Gretzky's career, you've got different versions of it. Early 80s is going to be one version. Late 80s is going to be another. Early 90s is going to be a third. And then late 90s is going to be a fourth. And you could see four distinct movements of like up and down in amount of power play. Same with Gordie's. Same with Gordie's era. They kind of let more stuff go, but that doesn't mean they didn't call penalties. They totally did. Because again, Gordie has, you go look at their penalty minutes. Some of these guys have pretty good penalty minutes.
I just know with like all sports and the changes in player safety and all that stuff, I didn't know if maybe things had shifted to where it like may have been a noticeable difference in more modern days with penalties and stuff because of the player safety elements. But
yeah, I think the thing that kind of offsets it though is that even whenever power plays went up, overall for a chunk of Ovechkin's career, scoring was down. So like just across the board, scoring was down. So power play, even strength, whatever you want, it was more difficult to score goals. And when it's more difficult to score goals, then kind of the cream rises to the top. You separate yourself out pretty well. So I think that's always the kind of thing of, they did some years back, they actually tried to even it out and try to be like, okay, if we get rid of the era, we adjust for era. And a bunch of the calculations this is years ago, a bunch of the calculations had Ovechkin in the 800 goal, 900 goal category like 5-6 years ago, if we do era adjusted, because they take into account the eras when it was easier to score goals. So if he's just doing what he does and more of those shots are going in because goaltender pads are smaller, because you got some more space to maneuver, well, he's just going to score more goals. The guy's already pinpoint with bigger pads than goaltender. He played during the era where some of the goal pads were bigger, and it was slowed down a little bit. Again, I always joke about it with the Benaissance on the Discord. Jamie Benn won an Art Ross trophy with an 87-point season. That's an anomaly. You have to go back to like Gordie Howe's era to find guys in like the high 80 points, winning an Art Ross or equivalent to it. It's not normal. But yeah, scoring was just down. If scoring was up, then all of a sudden, I tease on the Discord, we joke about it with, the J-Rob pump. His greatest season was a great season. But that season, there were 11 100-point guys. So his 109 points was excellent. Franchise record, all those things are true. But there were 11 guys who had 100 points, which is the highest that has been in a while. Like, I have to think back a ways. I'm like, the 100-point guys were tough. It was the elite guys. It was the Yagers. It was the Lemieux. It was those guys who could get the 100 points. And everybody else, if you had a 90-point season, you were great. 100 points, you're elite. You're like Peter Forsberg. You're Joe Sakic. You're those guys. And your team had better be high octane too. So you have these waves. It comes in waves. So we're in an era right now where the scoring has started to creep back up a little bit, but it's not the 1980s. We're not anywhere near that. But it's definitely up. Like 5-6 years ago, scoring would have been down compared to where it is right now. It is now possible for guys to get 100-point seasons again, which is kind of fun. It's kind of fun for fans to watch. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, again, I got listening to the radio in the mornings heading to work. I remember, I guess it was probably 2019 when it's 106.7 The Fan is the sports radio station here. And they started mentioning the potential of Ovi breaking the record. And, obviously a lot of stuff has happened since 2019, and we had the shortened 2020 season and all that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really cool to be in this area, see the fans and the hype, the excitement over it, but also the fact that he did it all on one team. Outside of the record, just like you mentioned, the 40 goal seasons and all of that. Eric mentioned the respect of ways he's gone about and just carried himself throughout his career and everything. But we don't have that a lot in sports in general anymore, where somebody spends their entire career and becomes record-breaking legendary. And it brings me back. It's not quite as a, I guess, scoring feat type, but growing up in the area and witnessing Cal Ripken, break that record, the Ironman record. So, it kind of took me back to that with the whole being in this area and everything, and just how it happened and all that. So, and it's the 50th anniversary too for the Capitals. I did think that they could have picked a different sponsor choice for the video or for the jersey for the record.
You mean TikTok didn't work for you?
Yeah, the TikTok. I mean, with all the crap with that, I was like, really? TikTok's getting play out of this? They probably paid a hell of a lot to have it on there, though. I would expect they paid up to have it on there. But
so you're saying you don't want your Ovi patch card with the TikTok patch?
Yeah, I did catch that. Yes, but
yep.
I thought it was funny too. They asked him if he planned out the belly flop and slide across the ice, and he said, "No, I actually didn't plan that. I fell."
Yeah, I was gonna say he should have just gone with the listen, guys, I'm old and I'm tired. My legs gave out. I just roll with it.
Yeah, just he said, "I actually that wasn't planned. I fell."
Yeah. Now, Ovi's got a good sense of humor about this stuff, which is good. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to kind of ask, and like I said, I'll start pushing it into the card direction a little bit here, just to talk on that. So, like I said, this episode will be a very hockey-heavy episode. We'll have a little fun with that. So, you're welcome, Eric. So, I like that. Listen, this is a moment for you. This is your moment to shine. So, I expect some good things from you. So the thing is that one of the key pieces that I thought was interesting with a lot of the stuff and lead into it is that now the pressure's off from that perspective. They still got games left. So we expect that they won't necessarily be pressing anymore to try to feed him the puck just for the sake of feeding the puck. However, if the guy's going to get open in his spot, you'd be foolish not to get the puck to him if he can fire off on it and still score. He's got 42 goals. He's 4th in the league in goal scoring. So Eric, you're not going to go out of your way not to pass him the puck.
Oh,
he's in his spot. No. If he's opened, pass him the puck, see if he can shoot.
They don't have to work as hard on every single shift, but he's going to score because he is a goal scorer, and the puck just finds him.
Yeah.
When he scored against Boston on April 1st, it just found him. It bounced through a bunch of guys. There was a slew going on, and all of a sudden it kicks out. There he is, taps it in. It just is like he has a magnet. So he's going to get his chances. I know that there is a big push to get him the 900. Because that's the next real big.
I'm going to ask a noob question again, because this was something that I was curious on. Because it's a cumulative career goals, right? And everybody was talking about how many games was left. Do they not count playoff goals?
No.
So for this record, this is regular season goals. Period.
Okay. Because I was wondering about because I thought it was just career goals.
No, if it was career goals, he'd already have a higher number. Yeah, if you include playoffs.
I think Gretzky still holds that record.
He does, but now so this is where it gets interesting. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up because this is kind of interesting. So we're talking again. I gave you guys different numbers, and they're different numbers, different goal. I thought the even strength one was an interesting one. I didn't realize he needs one more to tie Gordy for second. That's kind of a cool. Again, he's the power play goal leader, game winning goal leader, all time goal leader. There's a lot of stuff going on. Playoff goals is his own thing. Playoff points is his own thing. That's a different category. However, what you're talking about was Gretzky's last goal of his career in the NHL was his 1,072nd goal, professional goal. So the category that gives is professional goals. Here's where it gets interesting, because this is what it includes. When they established that record, which is separate, again, it's a separate record. We can make up a record for anything we want, but the specific that we're talking about here is they were looking at Gordie Howe had his entire career in the NHL. He had the 801 career goals, but then he spent years in the WHA. That was a professional league. So they counted those goals. And what they said, because they wanted to create another category, this is a different category. So you've got both those plus his playoff goals in both the NHL and the WHA. Because again, the WHA was a professional league. There were professional players in it playing professionally.
Most of them were NHL players.
Exactly. So you're looking, so that record was 1,071. Now, when Gretzky broke that, again, you add it. He did play in the WHA. So it's apples to apples. So they counted his WHA goals, and he did play in the WHA playoffs. So they counted his WHA playoff goals and his NHL goals and his NHL playoff goals. And in totality, he ended up at 1,072, which is exactly one more goal than Gordie Howe. Exactly one more when you add it all up. Now, obviously, with Ovechkin, there is no WHA. So here's where it gets kind of wonky. That's a record that technically, if we have to only include WHA, then technically nobody else can break it. There's no circumstance under anyone else can break it. But here's where it gets a little weird. Do we count the KHL? Because that's professional hockey. Is it better or worse than the WHA?
Yes. If the statistic is professional hockey goals, then I would say yes, you would count the KHL, because that would make sense. But you can move these goalposts around all you want to make them do whatever. You can say yes, the WHA and the NHL totals, and you can say total professional, playoffs. You can just move the goalpost around and change these numbers constantly. But how many times as a professional hockey player where someone gave you money to play the sport, how many times did you put the puck in the net?
Yep, I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's kind of an interesting question. So that's the reason I was just kind of curious of how you would play it. So I can tell you right now, if we take his regular season goals and add in his NHL playoff goal totals, just making sure I'm looking at the right thing. If we add those two up right now, he's at 967 total goals in the NHL. So that includes regular season and playoffs, which, by the way, is extremely impressive. We're talking pushing 1,000 as well. So that's NHL only.
Yeah, I just had to ask that because, I heard everybody saying, well, there's only a couple of games left in the season. And I was sitting there and I was like, because a lot of, career, I was looking at it as career. And I thought that was all inclusive, scoring in the playoffs or whatever. So that makes sense then why they were, saying there was only a few games left. So interesting. I also wanted to bring up, because since Eric's there in the Boston area, how about that? I mean, how would you like to be that kid, Ryan Leonard, who was on Boston College?
Yeah. 2
days later, he's on the Washington Capitals playing with Ovechkin, going for this damn record. This kid goes from the hockey, the college playoffs to the NHL, thrown right in there.
Yeah.
In the biggest moment that could possibly be happening. It's and then he got his first goal. I think he got his on the empty net the night that Obi tied, I believe.
Yeah, he was the one who actually got. He was the one who actually got to take advantage of that empty netter. That's right.
Yeah, so he got his first goal on the night that Obi tied Gretzky. So I mean, this kid's probably in a freaking whirlwind.
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on, because not only do you show up, to your first professional team, and they're like, yeah, you're going right to the NHL, not the minors.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, now I get to play with Alexander Ovechkin, a future Hall of Famer. Oh, okay. He's in the middle of this goal race, sets this record, right? That's going to be around for at least, 20 more years. It's like, holy shit. And then guess who walks into the locker room? Wayne Gretzky. And you're like, is this real? Is this freaking real?
Yeah, it was 6 days ago that because I pulled it, I couldn't remember his name. 6 days ago, they posted the article, and it was 2 days, I guess, prior. So it's been within like a week. All of this stuff's happened. It's like, welcome to the NHL.
Hey man, it happens. It happens.
And his bank account grew. On top of all these experiences, his bank account got a lot bigger. It's just just incredible what that kid has gone through.
Mm-hmm. So I added up, I included the KHL just because I was able to pull it up here. So that tacks on, he only played one season in the KHL as a youngster, but it adds another 19 goals to his total. So right now, if we include that in professional goals, he's sitting at 986. So just pushing 1,000. Now,
so he's still in the area.
Oh yeah, but here's the thing. Realistically, like if we're just being honest, to be fair, man, you see, we do a hockey episode, and all of a sudden he's got a little extra pep in his step. Did you see that, Brandon? He's got a little extra juice in the tank there from Eric today. All right. So the thing is that realistically, so we got a couple of scenarios that could play out though. Kind of to your question, we could have assuming he decides to just play out the last season of his contract because it's the last year of his contract if he wants to. Again, if he wants to. Number one, he could still score a couple more goals this year. That could add a little bit to the total. If the Capitals have an extended playoff run, he could score a couple more goals in there. That would add to the total. And then if he plays next season, he doesn't have to be amazing, but right now, it's seemingly, if he's just going to play like an average Ovechkin season where he's not really pressing it, he could still score 30 goals in a season, like given his current capabilities. So tack that on. Yeah,
broken leg.
Tack that on. Tack that on if you want. And again, if they do anything in the playoffs, tack that on. So then he retires. Well, one of the things that I've heard that he's kicked around is, okay, so now he's done with the NHL. He could go home and play a couple of seasons in the KHL just for fun. Yeah. Basically, his equivalent of the beer league, Eric, just for fun. Just go out there and
hold on. Have you been watching him lately and some of the videos and stuff? This is the beer league for this guy.
No, I get it, but like Eric, but he gets to also be like in Russia at home, like really like super beer league time.
This is his beer league. This guy doesn't care. He eats whatever he wants. He's cracking beers constantly. Like he's in the locker room cracking Coors Lights and chugging them during the press conferences and stuff. I mean, he's just having the time of his life.
Eric, he's fourth in the league in goals. He is a finely tuned athlete.
Russian machine doesn't break. I know.
I wasn't even like following hockey much, and it was a huge thing when the Caps won the cup because he was like going to all the fountains and stuff like that and jumping in the fountains because he was so pissed drunk. He was like drinking out of the cup and everything. Like they were just showing he was like toasted. He didn't care. He was on cloud nine and just
he as says, much as I like the taste of beer. That's it. I don't care. Yeah. He likes drinking.
Okay. Well, cheers to that. Since you brought it up. While Eric was saying that, that's the reason I was like, what are you trying to say?
It's that this is his beer league. He's that good, boys.
But listen, you're only helping to make the point though that hey, it's in play. I'm just saying, if we count the KHL thing, it could be in play because again, he could go and play a couple of seasons in the KHL just for fun, and then that could get him over the top. Either way, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like out of all of them, it's just a fun add-on. Like it's like, but I think it's kind of cool that he's been able to fashion a career. Whereas very much, like I think we can comfortably say, and again, a lot of the Gretzky folks come in and like, oh, but Gretzky. I'm not talking about best hockey player. We're just talking about best goal scorer. Period. Statistically, he has accumulated more goals than everybody else. Like that would make you the best, Brandon. If you have more, that's it. It's maths. Don't fight it on this one. Just go with it. Go with it. And he's done it every which way. Like it's been very impressive, and he's done it every which way, and he's done it consistently. And even at age 39, 20 years in, he's still doing it at a high level. That is impressive.
And he's so freaking good. He can be like, I don't want to score on an empty net. I'll score regular style.
Yeah, and he did the very next game. He still.
Again, he
did they say? Did they say? They might have, and I just didn't see it. What was the? Did anybody clock like the speed on that shot? Because I mean,
Oh, I'm sure they did, but I didn't catch it. No, but it was a laser. Like
I didn't know
it
if
was
anybody had said because that thing
yeah,
was
That was a
God.
wrist shot. It wasn't
yeah,
even a slapper.
yeah. But look,
Yeah,
that's why I'm
but you
that's
could
what I'm trying
tell
to
he
get at.
wanted
Yeah.
it.
Well, I remember I can truly say if we go back in the archives of the live stream a couple of years back, I joked about, all Ovechkin needed to do to guarantee himself the goal. This is still when he was still a couple of years away. I said, all he has to do is guarantee himself the goal scoring record. Is just train under, Obi-Wan, Brett Hull. Like at the end of his career, Brett Hull became a master of like, he's just going to go to his spot and he's going to fire off his shot and he's still going to score a bunch of goals that way. But Ovechkin is like obviously taking it to another level because his wrist shot is lethal, his slap shot is lethal. They're accurate, which is what makes the goaltender's life miserable. Is he's not just firing randomly into the air. He's like it's accurate. He's hitting his target, and he can set it up almost any way he wants and still be able to do it while the puck's moving, adjusting on the fly, going back like this, and then firing it off. Like he's got almost every trick in the bag at this point.
Yeah,
He makes his own space too. Gretzky couldn't make his own space because of his natural size. Gretzky's never the biggest guy on the ice. At no time in his entire playing career, when he was 8, he was playing with 14-year-olds. At no point in his entire career was Gretzky the biggest guy on the ice. Ovechkin is a big boy, and he can make his own room, and he can. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, that he's not that far away from being the all-time leader in hits in the NHL.
Yep.
Gretzky probably had 3 hits in 20 years, right? One fight.
Let's be honest, they probably gave him a couple of Phantom hits.
So Gretzky,
like a Phantom assists, they probably gave him a couple extra, Brandon. Like, yeah, sure, you can have a couple of hits, sure. Why not? We'll give you a few.
One fight, which he just got absolutely train wrecked. He may have accidentally bumped into some people 3 times. Ovechkin's a freight train. There's plenty of highlights of him just destroying people. And he can make his own room. So, I give him tons of credit for that. His style of play is needs to be respected, even by vintage guys like me, guys who have favorite players and put them up on pedestals, like Bobby Orr,
Joe Thornton.
Shut up. And you have to respect this guy. There's nothing wrong with his game, the way he's done it, the enthusiasm in which he's done it in. I'm glad that I've been able to see this.
Yeah, well, that's actually one thing I was going to quickly mention since we can touch on it here. I think the biggest thing for me, and the reason why I'm glad that we were able to get this, is because, like I said, we mentioned it earlier. I'm not convinced that the style of play will hold up, this flow of the game will hold up. Conditions have to be almost perfect. Eric made the point that we all thought Gretzky's record was unbreakable for the goals. But the difference was, part of the reason why was because, again, the 80s had been so fruitful. The reason why people thought it was unbreakable, including Ovechkin in several interviews, thought it was unbreakable back in 2015 and 2016, is because he was looking at the same thing we were. It's not just scoring. If you're not going to have 80 and 90 goal seasons, which Ovechkin has never had, his highest output was 65 goals, which, by the way, is great, but it's not 70, it's not 80, it's not 90. That extra goals.
92.
Yeah. The thing is, when you add that in, that's an extra 20, 30 goals in one season that gets you up that total faster. So the thing is, the 1980s, for a lot of guys, was a cheat code. Gretzky capitalized on it better than anybody else, but that counts. So if you don't have that benefit, you don't have access to it. You can't get to it. Even Yager and Brett Hull and these other guys still got to play in the 90s. There was still a stretch of the 90s where goal scoring was still pretty good. Mario Lemieux got to play in a little bit in the 80s and the 90s. He got to take advantage of that. If you don't have access to that, Ovechkin started in 05. He didn't get to take advantage of any of that. You go look at the goal totals. He's the only guy who didn't play at some point in the 70s, 80s, or 90s that is anywhere close to that total. All the other guys, you look at them, they all played at some point in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Marcel was 70s and 80s. Phil Esposito was 60s, 70s, and 80s. Gordie Howe played for 1,000,000 years. All these other guys who were right at that top of the Gretzky, 80s and 90s. All the other guys at the top of the food chain played at least some part of those decades. Jagr started in the 90s and went and continued on and played a long time too.
As sports fans, we always like the woulda, coulda, shoulda. We talked about this on Friday a little bit. Jagr's 52 years old, the same age Howe was when he retired finally. He's still playing. He's saying he's done after this season in the Czech League. If Jagr left the NHL for a while, came back to the NHL, bounced around to a ton of different teams. If Jagr stayed in the NHL and maybe didn't jump around so much, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think he would end up at the end of the day being the all-time goal scorer. Not that he's saying he would have played until 52 in the NHL, but he would have played into his 40s.
And he did play into his 40s.
No, but he
with the seasons in between, yeah.
But he left, he came back, he played a little bit here, moved over. I think if things were different and his career, was a little different, he would have ended up being the all-time goal scorer and maybe untouchable.
I think so I don't think it's a bad argument. I think what's tricky though, and here's what I'll throw at you. I think what's tricky though, and this is what I said earlier about the Ovechkin thing. It's not just scoring. It's if you're not going to get the ridiculously super high goal totals for individual seasons, but just very good goal totals for individual seasons, then you need a certain amount of consistency because it's the only way. You have to be able to consistently churn in season after season after season consistently. The issue is that Jagr started in 1991, racked up a ton of goals early on in his career. Going away, you're right, hurt him. But I think what hurt him even more is there were stretches of times where Jagr just wasn't trying as hard as he could. Yeah. Because he had the ability to be able to. So I'll give you, again, since we're talking it, I pulled up the numbers here. So in 05-06, he had 123 points. Great season. Obviously, he was a machine in racking up points. 54 goals, 69 assists. Tremendous season by any metric. His next season, he was 30 goals. Then he was 25 goals. These are in 82 game seasons. He played every game. 25 goals in 82 games at age 35. Not amazing. Okay, no. But for a guy of that ability,
you'd expect a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, he does leave. When he comes back, so this is important. We'll go apples to apples. We just talked about Ovechkin for probably 20 minutes, maybe more. Ovechkin is age 39. He broke his leg during the season. He's got 42 goals this year as he was marching towards the record. This was like the last steps up a mountain that he had been climbing for 20 straight years. You would think the guy's got to be getting tired, but he just kept, and he was scoring, by the way. He didn't limp it to this record. He was charging the last couple of games, especially just scoring every other game or every game. Apparently, I think somebody did the stat. This season, he hasn't gone more than 3 games without scoring a goal. He's just been relentless. He just won't stop. He just keeps going forward. At age 39, Jagr was playing for Philadelphia. He played 73 games. So basically a full season. 73 games is pretty close to a full season. 19 goals. He plays 45 games the following season, a little bit of injuries and stuff, 16 goals. With New Jersey in 13-14, he's age 41, 24 goals. Then 17 goals in 77 games. 11 goals in 57 games. He played an 82-game season at age 44 for Florida. He scored 16 goals. His last kind of a really crazy season, 15-16, Florida, age 43, 79 games, 27 goals. He's still putting up decent, but he's doing 20-goal seasons. He's not doing 30, 40 goals. And this is at the end. If he gets those years in between, if I'm getting motivated, Jagr, I'm with you. Right. If I'm getting if I'm getting age 35, 25 goals in 82 games, Jagr, no, he's not coming anywhere close. But you know what he would have done, though? What he would have done for sure, 2,000 points. He would have been the only other guy at 2,000 points. As it was, he was at 1921. Yeah. So he totally would have eclipsed 2,000 points for sure. But again, am I getting motivated Yager? Because late career Yager, when he came back, he goes, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. And all of a sudden he's in the gym. He's going out there like he's on the bike going crazy. Only 7 minutes and 59 seconds at a time, because anything beyond that is pointless.
From what
so
I hear.
7 minutes and 59 seconds, he's killing it on that bike. Killing it. But you see him like he's all of a sudden his workouts became legendary in his late 30s and early 40s. He found motivation that I was like, well, where was this guy? When you were at the peak of your powers, if you had been this, then yeah, totally. He would have smashed everything. But he should have been 2,000 points, like for sure. Totally should have been 2,000 points. I think the goals, though, like Yager was a goal scorer, but Yager's highest goal total was 62. He wasn't the pure goal scorer of an Ovi. Like Ovi was scary, especially in his prime. But Yager is obviously a great goal scorer. I just don't know if know if it would have been enough.
Somebody would still take at 52 if he wanted to come back to the NHL. Somebody would put a uniform on his back.
I get it, but my point though is his last season in the NHL, he played 22 games and he scored a goal. It's not like he's not going to put up these crazy numbers. It's again, beer league Ovechkin is still roaming the earth, just doing whatever the hell he wants.
Incredible. No, he's incredible.
So it's not just, and this is the key point I want to make here. All I'm trying to get at, just to put it into context for everybody. My point that I want to make sure I make clear here. The thing that is interesting but also bizarre about the Ovechkin story is that he hasn't limped into this record at the end of his career. He didn't have the 9 goals in his last season. He's literally going out there and like relentlessly marching forward like you can't, like he's Jason in his Friday the 13th movie, and you can't kill this man.
Yeah, last year, people started questioning him because, I think he only had 20 something goals last year, right? And
no, he had in the first half of the season, he had like 8 goals, and then he turned it on and finished with like 32.
Okay.
And by the way, through like 50 games, he had like 8. It was like stupid. Or 40 games, he had like 8.
I remember last year there being a lot of question about how many more years is it going to take? And it's going to, statistically, it's all right. Mathematically, it's going to, at this pace, it's going to take 2 more seasons, and and then he just came out this year and just like, get out of my way, hold my beer.
Yeah. Late in the season, what was crazy is late in the season, he scored like 25 goals in like the last 35 or 40 games. He just went off. Like in the second half, he suddenly flipped the switch, turned it on, and he was off the race. This year, he basically from the beginning of the season, he was like full speed ahead. We're going. And what was kind of scary, I have to double check the math, but I think broken leg notwithstanding, he's on a 55 goal pace this season if he had played a full season. Yeah. Just imagine a 55 goals pace for this season. Just every time he goes out there, he's a threat to score a goal. There you go, Brandon. So, we've leaped heaps of praise to this man. What else can we do for you?
Yeah, so I was pulling up some stuff to transverse over into the card territory because this is kind of mind-blowing to me.
We've done a lot of regular hockey talk. We got to talk some cards here. A little bit of cardboard here.
So we're talking about how this record, it may potentially get broken, but odds are
it'll take a lot. So before you get to it, Brandon, the only thing I wanted to say was it is possible. I don't think it's plausible. I just think it would take too many seasons and too much scoring, and too many things can go wrong. Go ahead.
Well, in speculation of the difficulty that it be, I was curious.
Sure.
Someone that we've discussed a lot recently, not recently, but we've discussed in the past. A young kid, a prodigy, the next upcoming great. And no, I'm not about to say who you think.
I was going to get about the pump emoji. I was getting it ready.
I'm ready. Nope. I'm ready to go.
All right, Bedard. Who you got?
Connor Bedard.
Okay.
So I was curious. He's having a down, kind of a sophomore slumpish type deal.
Yeah. And also his team is trash, but go on.
So his young gun is sitting roughly around $500 in a PSA 10. And I was like, okay. I pulled up the PSA pop report, and I about needed to run out and grab a roll of the toilet tissue because I did not realize the population is over 16,300 of them graded now.
Yeah, for sure.
There's 6,941 10s, and they're still selling for roughly $500 to $550. So I was curious. All right, Ovechkin, now his young gun is pricey in a 10, but there is only 1,316 of them graded a 10. Very significant difference, and there's only let's call it 3950 total graded by PSA on the young guns. Obviously, that one in a 10 is roughly 5,100 right now with all of the hysteria going on. So I went to a different one to kind of put it in a balance of price to price. And it's actually a really cool image, the 2005 Upper Deck Rookie Class card.
Okay.
It's selling for right around 500 right now in a PSA 10. Cool image, got the stick bending on him taking a shot. Surprisingly, on that card, there's only 1,033 graded a 10, and it looks like about 3,032 total graded in the population. Now, it's not the young gun. It's not, your go-to, but apples to apples, price to price, 500, 500. You're talking a kid who probably has no hope of reaching this plateau. He's already showing some signs, of the slump and everything. He could pick it up next year. Who knows? How are we, this is a question that comes up all the time. How are some of these modern players selling at the prices they are when we look at some of the greats, and Obi being a modern day, it just happened, great. How are they trading on equal dollar values, especially not only you look at the different tiers of greatness, but the different levels of, everybody's always talking about pop counts. Like, you could combine his rookie class number and his young gun number and probably not even, well, you might be at half of what the Connor Bedard young gun is at. I mean, that's something to think about.
I see. All right. I get your point. I think one thing that I would throw out there at you, and just like I said, it's always funny to me how a lot of folks
this is just for discussion, by the way.
No, I get you. The thing is, the pop count is one thing, but just so that, again, since we're doing the hockey episode, let's do the hockey episode. We'll talk about this briefly. I'll include a link in the description to it if I can find it. There was a video where somebody did the breakdown just a little bit. The problem with the Bedard is indicative of people trying to go for the gold on day one. They want the player to already be the finished product on day one. The problem is that Bedard started his career at age 18 with a team that is bad enough to get the first overall draft pick, and they're in contention for it again because, again, they're garbage. He is in his slump. He's still leading the Blackhawks in scoring this season, which should tell you everything you need to know about this team. Like, that's how bad they are.
Oh, they're horrible.
They're horrible. However,
not as bad as the Bruins, I don't think. I think they're better than the Bruins.
Yeah, but regardless, though, if I can find the one, I'll actually send it to you guys. But I think you'd enjoy it. It would be illuminating. The individual in the video actually decided to watch a bunch of Chicago games and kind of break down what they're doing. And what they did is they did a bit of an analysis, and very straightforward. What they were looking at is they're looking at the difference between a player in season 1 and season 2. And what tends to happen with a lot of players is that they start out as the league is figuring them out. If they have success, great. If they don't, regardless, they're able to get more shots off closer to the net. The closer you can get a shot off to the net on a consistent basis, the more likely you are to find some openings, and you should be able to score some more goals. Again, a little bit of luck is involved, but regardless, the closer you are to the net, the higher percentage shots you're able to fire off. Almost all of these players, in their second season as the league adapts, I'm just sticking high level here, but in their second season as the league adapts, oftentimes you end up further away because the teams just basically adjust. They just figure out what this team's doing, adjust, and get the player to fire off from a little bit further away. Well, they literally went through the tape and showed a bunch of examples in there. And what they discovered is, since Chicago's so bad, the other team basically says, we're just going to put 2 or 3 players around Bedard as he comes into the zone, and you have 2 choices. You either pass or you try to go through 3 guys. The answer is you're probably not going to get a pass off. if you can, and actually this season he's gotten more. Let me finish. This season he's actually been able to get more passes off because he's slowly come to the realization like I'm not going to be able to get through 3 guys. So the only hope I have is to pass the puck. Problem is there's no finishers. So you pass the puck to nobody, nothing goes in the net, and nothing happens.
You said something right in the beginning though, and this is the part where it's interesting in the card space, and I completely agree. You know, you can take this to other sports, like we've talked about all the time. Football teams and people spending buku money on the number 1 pick and it being a quarterback. Well, guess why he's going as the number 1 pick to this crap team? Because they suck. That's how they got the number 1 pick, right? Yep. And then everybody's expecting that, oh my God, they're going to be the next Tom Brady. And what do? They fall flat on their face because they have absolutely nothing around them. No offensive line, nobody to throw to. We see this happen even in other sports. So I completely agree there. People expect the gold out the gate. The question is, why? Why hasn't it, like, we just discussed pre-recording. Mm-hmm. It wasn't long ago that Ovi Prices, and he was a great player for many years. He had won the cup in 2018. Ovi Prices were not that much. Like, I mean, some of them were, you know, little expensive, but overall, his price was still attainable for most people. He wasn't out the gate, even going along. You know, you had him and Crosby come out in the same year, knowing that both of them potentially had, you know, the potential of greatness. People weren't throwing the dollars, and it used to not be that way. Like, we weren't rookie card, let's go make them the highest priced cards on the market right out the gate. And now it seems like the hobby in general is putting each modern day, like every year, we're upping the bar of the value that we're placing on these guys coming right out instead of letting them grow into that value. And I haven't figured out how or why we got to that point. I'm not saying that some of these guys may not ever be worth what they're going for, but it almost feels like that you're paying and praying that it's not going to go down when the odds are against you there, instead of allowing them to grow into the value that they are. I think we're doing things kind of ass backwards in the hobby now.
So I agree. And so kind of to touch on that, one of the reasons for that is because if you're the flipper person there and you're gambling, you don't want to, let's put it this way. If you want to be the gambler, you're not interested in a mutual fund. You're interested in a penny stock. Your objective here is to try to get something that moves fast, because then you want to get in, get out. You're trying to basically get it all in one shot. So the Bedard is an example, but he's not the only one. Like Zion Williamson was a perfect example of the same thing.
I wasn't picking on him. He was just, since we were talking hockey.
But he's the same idea. He's the same principle. He's the same principle. Because what happens is he could still become, like, again, likely not at this point, but we'll see. But it doesn't matter. Even if he was a multi-time All-Star, wins in a couple of NBA championships and everything, people will still look at him as a disappointment. Why? Well, because you created a price point that is connected to accomplishments that the player doesn't have and that they may never have. And because of that, you've created a scenario where you can only fail. It is actually the only direction you can go is down. You don't have a choice because we can't get to that spot. And by that point, the people that have moved off of it have already sold their inventory. They don't care. So it doesn't matter anymore. So the thing is, from the gambling perspective, that's why you're shooting for the moon on day one. And he did win the Calder Trophy. Speaking of Connor Bedard, but he could have scored 50 goals. It'd still be a disappointment. He could have scored 150 goals. It'd still be a disappointment. If in 5 years he doesn't win a Stanley Cup, it's a disappointment. The card drops in half. So what does it matter? Like, there's nothing the kid can do. There's no scenario that this will play out where he can be the all-time leading goal scorer by the time it's all said and done. He's in his second season. He's 19 now. So just to make a joke, this is not serious, but at the same time, technically it's true. And Brandon will appreciate this one. Eric, you'll appreciate this one too. Did you know that Connor Bedard is already better than Alex Ovechkin? Because at this point in Alex Ovechkin's career, Connor Bedard has 41 more goals than Alex Ovechkin did at this point in his career. You know why? Because Ovechkin's career didn't start until he was 20. He didn't play. He didn't start until he was 20. So technically, Connor Bedard's already ahead of Ovi's pace.
That's right.
Technically. Goat, exactly. So like I said, it's all relative, right? Like it's all depends on the situation. Like everything's a little bit different. But again, that's why I say the video I thought was illuminating, because the guy, instead of just making statements, they went and pulled the film. And as they were showing the film, I go, here's an example. Bedard's going in the zone. Immediately, the other team, I'm saying this kind of half jokingly, but Eric, basically, he cracks up. It is, all right, he's coming to zone. The other team is, these other guys are not a threat. We don't care about them. And they literally had 4 skaters go around Bedard as he comes in the zone. They only left 1 skater to guard everybody else on the ice, and literally put 4 players around Bedard, because they're like, you will either pass the puck or we will get it and go drive it down the other way. So if you're Connor Bedard, Eric, what are you doing? You can't fire the puck. You can't shoot. There's almost no passing lanes. What are you doing? So guess what, Eric? On paper, that means you did nothing, right? It was like, well, dude, it's 4-on-1. What am I supposed to do out here?
Yeah, they would just surround him,
because they know there's no threat. They know the other players. If you had anybody on the other side of the rink that could cause them harm by doing this, do you think they would still do that? Or would they move a couple of other players to the other side of the ice to at least have some coverage? So even we'll use the other wonderkind, again, contemporary to Ovi, Sidney Crosby. His Penguins team that he started off in was a bad team, right? By his second season, they were a 105-point team because they had Evgeny Malkin. They had a bunch of talented players.
I was about to say, I think
there is no Evgeny Malkin in Chicago.
No,
he doesn't have anybody. At this point, he would accept, his broken leg brother. He would accept, his crippled third cousin twice removed. He would take anything at this point, I'm sure.
But in seriousness, though, and I don't want to pick on Bedard here, but we're seeing the floodgates open on the Ovi market, right? To be honest, I have an Ovi Young Gun and all of that, and it's probably smart. It's probably the time to sell, because likelihood is this is his peak and it'll come back down.
I think the absolute peak's already passed, but I get your point.
I think it was leading up.
I think there's a couple of good sales here.
I didn't want to shop for.
I think there's a couple of good sales left this week. I think for the absolute like top tier stuff, like the really good stuff, I don't think you're gonna have any issue. Yeah. But I think for like regular, if you want to sell a PSA 10 Young Gun, you probably already missed your window. You probably should have done it already.
So, but looking at it, so I pulled up another player, and this guy we can't talk shit about.
Ooh,
Connor.
Challenge accepted.
It's another Connor, though. I'm going McDavid.
McDavid, okay,
2015.
Sure.
Probably the best player in the NHL right now. But I pulled his Young Gun up, and his PSA 10 pop is 3129. His overall is just a tick over 7,000. So when you're looking at that, you're talking Bedard has nearly as many 10s as even a guy from 2015, McDavid, has total. So when we're looking at this, we're putting these new guys on a pedestal so high that I don't know that they could ever achieve what it would take accomplishment-wise or performance-wise to even sustain at the values that are being placed on them coming out the gate. Because let's say Bedard does, great things in the future, maybe wins a cup or two. Hell, let's assume he could even contend for Ovechkin's record. You have 16,000 right now in the population. 69, almost approaching 7,000 10s.
Mm-hmm.
And the market is flooded. We talked about it. The market is already flooded on Ovechkin, sitting with, what did I say it was? 1,000? Yeah, 1,000 10s, 1,300 9s. Or wait, that's the other one. 1,300 10s, 1,600 9s on the Young Gun. You're talking there's so much more volume there that would flood the market if feats like that were to occur. I don't see that the potential would ever be there to reach what some of these other guys were. And I think I think we're putting a lot of this stuff just in a downward trend. I don't know how there could be any sustainability. Let's not even talk about gains on them. I don't think there's much chance at a lot of these guys sustaining the values that are placed on them.
No shot. No, absolutely not. That's kind of to your point. Like, just so we're all on the same page, the initial burst of pricing because of people deciding to speculate. And like I said, I call it gambling, but it's also speculating, gambling, same thing. The speculation piece is what got the pricing to that point. Again, just so we always talk about this. Supply and demand, the rules have not been violated here. The rules are still in effect, like regardless of the situation. There is a ton of supply, but there is a ton of demand initially. Initially, everybody and their brother is trying to pull a Bedard, but what happens in practice? I leave everybody to do their own thing. I shared this on the podcast and the live stream before. I went out to a card show, and just for fun, screwing around, at the very end, I saw a couple blasters. They were on discount and whatever. I grabbed one of them. One of the blasters I grabbed was a wrestling one because hey, I want to open it. But then they actually had the Opeachy one with the Bedard year. And they literally had it on discount. Like, it was $20 Canadian for the blaster. I was like, that's cheaper than Walmart. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take one of those and I'll take my wrestling one and I'll take it home. I opened up the wrestling one, opened it up for the channel, did something, and then I opened up the other one. I pulled the Bedard. My first thought wasn't, oh my God, I'm going to hang on to this for my kids' college fund that I don't have.
Yeah.
College I did, kids I don't have. But I'm not hanging on to it for that. No, I sold the damn thing immediately with the quickness. It was listed immediate. Why? But here's the thing. I can go buy that card back. And now I can get it. I'd be able to get it cheap. Hell, I could buy one of the variants probably for less than what I got when I sold the base version. I needed to move it immediately while the kettle was hot, while the iron's hot. I got a strike. That's what I did, and that's okay. But it's because they had pushed the price up. They literally just wanted anything Bedard. It didn't matter what it was, just anything with his face on it. You had a moment in time, but the pricing is starting too high. It's not fair. It doesn't work. Like we always joke about. So let me give you a moment for your J-Rob pump here for a second. He is an interesting example of the opposite, because the stuff was so delayed. It was actually to his benefit because he was actually able to do something that actually created some buzz. If he had just come out normally, it would have been just a dude. He would have been just one of the guys there, whatever. And I think, and you would have been able to buy it. You know, it would have been to your benefit. Actually, you would have been able to buy it on the cheap, relatively speaking.
Yep.
And then and then it would have given an impetus to push it up. As it was, by the time the card showed up, you had at least a little bit of a track record to go with. Now, in the long run, it's going to move up and down. So go ahead, say something, and I'll add something to it.
Well, I was actually going to say, he's honestly another reason, and I've done videos, I've mentioned it on here before. He is one of the players that I've really enjoyed collecting, but has instilled the patience, because he hasn't really fallen off on his game. I mean, you mentioned he had the 109-point season, but he's still kind of, he hasn't broke the 100 points, but he's been still kind of consistent in there. Outside of that one season, he's still in the 80-90 range. But his prices have subdued from the hype when the products were coming out, when he had those moments, he had the back-to-back hat tricks and all the other things. And like the cup RPA that I bought, I could have saved a hell of a lot of money if I had just waited, because the markets do seem to trend down, and you just have to have that patience of not buying early. And you might miss on a few. There might be some that get some rise out of it, down the road. But he's one that most everything, not everything, but most everything, if I had waited, I actually would have been able to save some money on it.
Right. Now, here's the thing, though. Let's talk through this concept a little bit, just so we're all on the same page, and then we can kind of figure this one out. So, Eric, I want to bring you into this one because I want to get some thoughts on this. Okay. So I'll use, we'll have a little bit of fun with it. And I always enjoy it on the Discord because it's fun, because now Lapper gets to kind of, but he kind of forgets that I'm a Dallas fan. Look, if it's up to me, I want the guy to score. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it's
exactly. We're
fun
gonna have some
banter.
fun with it. If it's up to me, I want the guy to score 150 goals, like whatever it takes.
Right.
Like, hey, listen, pump away, but if he's scoring the goals, that's what I want. Like, we win. It's a win-win situation.
Right.
I'm happy to take it. So I'm not wishing ill, but I have to put everything in context because for me, it's important, even when I'm rooting for my team. That's why I joke about it, because a lot of people would always give me flack about Modano. It's like, but the thing is, I watched his career. I know what the circumstances were. I understood the type of game he was playing. Modano sacrificed offense. He could have scored more. He could have shot more. He did not do that. He intentionally withheld his ability. He is a guy who scored 50 goals in the league in a time when it was tougher to score 50 goals in the league. And he's a guy who was consistently in the top 10, 15 in points and that's with the Sakic's and the Peter Forsbergs and all these great players, but he was consistently there. But then go look at the team scoring. He was right at the top of team scoring all the time. Why? Well, because Ken Hitchcock says, I need you to play two-way. I need you to use your speed to be a good defensive player as well as being a good offensive player. Otherwise, I'd just sit you on the line and you'd be Pavel Bure and you don't know what the other half of the ice looks like. And I just get you the puck and we go. We could do that and he would score more. But as it was, Brandon, he tapered it back, scaled it down, and still almost scored 600 goals in his career. And that's a disappointment. That's on the low end of what his capabilities were. And yet, he has about the same amount of goals as Guy Lafleur. Go look it up. Guy Lafleur was a pretty decent goal scorer in his day, I believe, Eric.
He did okay. And he'd have more if he didn't retire and then come back after like 4 years. I mean,
this for sure.
Guy left, was out long enough to be eligible for the Hall of Fame, became a Hall of Famer, and then said, hey, I still have some hockey left in me, and came back and played for 3 more years. Yeah. And he could have, Guy's numbers would have been so much better if he had stuck around.
Yeah, but it's not insulting to be in the same league as Guy Lafleur.
God,
my point. So, and that's with tapering back, holding back from absolutely going full throttle. The point, though, is that allows me then to look at context. So when I'm seeing 80-point seasons, it makes sense. He could have been going 90 points or 100 points if he had just gone full throttle. That would have been interesting, but that wasn't the style of play they were playing. That's okay. But now, when I'm looking at these players, Robertson is playing very well. I think it's going to come down to, I still want to see some development in his game. So I'm looking at this from a hockey perspective. When I'm watching him play, I want to see a little bit of development in his game, but he's 25. He's still young. So he's still allowed to develop and adjust his game and everything. What right now is going to be the case. Now let's talk about cards for a second, though. So he's surprised by coming out and having a 40-goal season, then another 40-goal season, 46 goals. That was the surprise. The 46-goal season coincided with 109 points. Franchise record. Fantastic. But now, so these are the point totals, the last 4 seasons, okay? So we're all on the same page. 79 points in his breakout 40-goal season. 41 goals. That was his breakout. So 79 points that season. 109 points right after that. 46 goals. Extremely impressive. That's where all of a sudden, oh my God, the RPAs are going nuts. Everything's going nuts. Oh my God, we're losing our minds.
They were released during that season, I think.
Exactly. So now you're going into the hype. Now you're going into the wave right at that time. But following season, 29 goals and 80 points. All right, pretty good, but not as good, obviously. But pretty good. This season, 34 goals, 78 points in 77 games. So he's had one 80-point season, a 79, a 78, and then a 109. So there's like one outlier that's like almost 30 points higher than everything else. 80 points is good. 79 points, 80 points is good. But here's the question. So Eric, if we take this into like the card perspective.
Okay.
If we had done this in reverse and he had been 79, 80 points, 78 points, and this season was 109, the perception would be very different than when we were doing it in reverse. We're kind of doing it in this way. So as it is right now, he's still doing good, but he's not right at the top of the food chain as far as points or assists or points and goals. So when people are looking at it like, okay, he's all right, but that doesn't feed into the hype. He's got to be pushing right. He's got to be right up there with the Connor McDavids. He's got to be with the McKinnons. He's got to be looking at like 90, 100 points for people to pay attention to it because he's already done 109 points. So now our expectation is increased. So where I say an 80-point season is very good, if I also say you're a guy who almost had 110 points one year, oh, what's wrong with Jason Robertson?
Right.
There might not be anything wrong with Jason Robertson, but the point is now we reset the expectation. It's almost so it was weird because he almost has like a reverse situation. He didn't have the hype, but the cards weren't ready yet. And then when the cards showed up, then all of a sudden we fed into the hype. But now, technically, in card parlance,
Yeah,
technically he's disappointing.
Yeah.
Because he's down almost 30 points from his peak.
Well, I can tell you there's an RPA, a cup RPA on eBay right now for a third of what I paid on the one I got. And when I bought mine, I was very happy at the price during that time.
Yep.
And and I'm looking at it and I'm like, shit.
No, but do you get what I'm saying though, Brandon? Like, I'm not just picking on you, but what I'm trying to do is I'm using this as an illustration though of the weird dynamic of it. Yeah, of the weird dynamic of this. Because if I say to you, Eric, a 25-year-old young guy who scored 34 goals and over a point a game, that sounds good. That seems good, Eric.
I like it.
Yeah, I was saying, I think you'd take it on the Bruins, wouldn't you?
I'd take anything on the Bruins.
You take somebody with a pulse on the Bruins.
I'd take Brandon on the Bruins.
He might still be able to skate up. But do you get my point though? It's
Yes.
not that he's not doing a good job. It's that you reset Brandon, if he had 4 consecutive seasons of 80 points, nobody's questioning this. But because he had a 109-point season with almost 50 goals that one year, now all of a sudden, but why isn't he doing that every year? Now it's disappointing. That's the weird thing about card momentum and the way this works is that we cannot put it into the context of what actually is going. And by the way, the team is playing well. So it's like.
That's what I was going to say. To the card speculated people, you might be looking at it that way. For me, I'm actually glad because it seems like when he's having the 80-point seasons, the team is more balanced. They're playing really well. I mean, we're third in the league in points right now, and
the team's doing very well, extremely.
And that's with Sagan out and Miro out. Two of our best guys. So, to be able to sit and say, oh, he's only got 80 points, but the team to be sitting in third place overall in the league with 2 of our best players injured, I'll take it. So, I know it's not pretty on the stat sheet, but it's not always about that if you want to win, and that's what these guys play the game for. So
yeah, for sure. But the reason why I was making that point is that it goes in counter to kind of help answer the question that you gave with the Bedard question. The Bedard one is like, oh, but he hasn't done anything yet. Yeah, but the hype and people. So right now, hope springs eternal. People are looking at Bedard and they initially were like, well, he's 18 when he's starting, and this year he's 19. So he's got maybe another season or two before, if they don't see that increase, that leap, it's going to mess things up even more. Regardless, though, even if next season he comes out and has 100 points and 50 goals, I don't think it's going to fix it. I actually think it might not be enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the population is too high.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fans may not know this, but you are at a human being is at their physical peak at 27 years old. Professional athletes hit their stride, barring injury, right? Because injury plays a huge part in sports. But professional athletes hit their stride. They're at their peak at 27. You're looking at with Bedard, you're looking at a 19-year-old kid who's only been able to vote for a year and can't drink until, a couple of more years. This kid is so far away from his peak. It is ridiculous. Not everyone is Gretzky that at 18 can come in and dominate an entire league and have the scoring title, at 18 years old. This kid is 18, 19 years old, and he is so far away from playing his best. He's not even finished growing yet. His brain hasn't finished developing yet. So when I hear people say this kid's a bum or a bust in his second year at 19 years old, I wonder how many concussions those people have had.
Well, they're saying he's a bust because, and this is what I was getting at. I wasn't trying to pick on Bedard when I was saying he's in a sophomore slump.
Listen, if I think you're the one trying to pick on people, you'll hear about it. All right?
Well, that's fine.
All right.
Fine. But no, it's the people that are saying that are the ones that are like the point of the question I have is, why has the hobby all of a sudden flipped the script on, let's pay the premium out the gate, pay and pray is kind of what it
Mhm.
feels like. We're
It
paying
is,
and
yeah.
praying that they're going to be able to sustain this hype, this momentum, because really, coming out of the gate, the population is just going to continue to rise, right? So where
Mhm.
is any chance, even if he was the next Ovi, the next Gretzky, like where in the hell is the potential of sustainability at? Because
Mhm.
the growth, I mean, I think I looked up McDavid, and he's got what, 6 times or 2 times more gems than even McDavid. And let's be honest, McDavid is freaking a super freak on the ice, the best player probably in the NHL right now. And you're looking at, okay, well, this kid just in tens has duplicated that number. Like that's my question, is how in the hell did we get to this point? And that's why I was bringing him up, because there is
Mhm.
so much there. The value was already placed on it, and he is having the slump. And so these people that have spent all this money on him, or expected to get money out of him because they were buying the boxes at, the inflated rates, and then spending the cost on the grading and everything else, and they've only seen it go the other way. Well, what the hell did you expect when the number comes out so high? Like,
Mhm.
it's not making sense. I don't get into stocks, but it would be like a new company hitting the stock market and you paying at the top, like above Apple right at the gate as soon as they hit the stock market. Like, what the hell do you expect from them?
Right.
Yeah, it's an
It's
IPO. It's an
only,
IPO, basically. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
So
so it's just crazy how we've gotten to this point. And I know it's the gambling aspect. There's more people in it just throwing money at things.
there is. Yep.
And I think the best way to describe it, I guess, is pay and pray. So,
Yeah. Well, so I'll throw in one more angle to this, and maybe this will help kind of sort of answer the question, but also bring it out there and pose it to people. What you're talking about, what you're referring to there, is if I'm one of the people that are in this spot and I'm trying to maximize value. That's why I use kind of the penny stock analogy, but maybe I'm trying to think of what a better analogy would be. Penny stock is a good example of it because you're trying to take advantage of a large margin and a quick move. You know what? Oh, let's put it this way. You're talking about basically day trading. Because so the point with day trading, as opposed to investing, let's call like regular hashtag investing. If I'll just use a simple example, not financial advice. Anything Eric says is financial advice, but this is not
Yeah.
financial advice. If I, for example, if I was to buy, Brandon, some stock in a bank, I've worked for various banks over the years. A lot of them have very stable balance sheets. They own a lot of assets. They're very diversified. They own property. They own all kinds of stuff. One thing a bank knows how to do, if nothing else, is how to make money. They're pretty good at it. Not perfect, but they're pretty good at it. Well, a bank stock is not exciting. You're going to usually pay a fair bit for it. However, what tends to happen is that every quarter you'll get a dividend. Pretty consistently, you will get a dividend. And you will not get rich overnight. It will just chug along, earning you a dividend every quarter. But as time goes on and they make more money, the dividend will slowly go up and it'll just keep rolling along. And as the balance sheet gets bigger, that stock price starts to increase. So you gain in that sense of it. This is not very exciting. It gets the job done, but it is not exciting. Now, you play a crazy tech stock that people are suddenly into. Well, that thing can go from here to here in the blink of an eye. So a lot of people run because they're not, you own that bank stock. Your plan, Brandon, is not to day trade it. Your plan is to buy it at a reasonable price as much as you can and just keep collecting those dividends for the next 15, 20, 30 years and just keep collecting them checks over and over and over. You won't get rich fast, but you will get rich over time. It'll just keep going. You're trying to score the scratch ticket. You're trying to hit in one shot.
exactly. Yep.
And you need the result by the end of the week. You don't need it in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. You're trying to hit now. So the only way that's going to happen is you got to go with the prospect. If I was today to do more of an investment style vehicle, Ovechkin obviously is doing great. Sidney Crosby was his contemporary. He's at
Mhm.
600 goals. He's got three
Even the
Stanley
guy you
Cups.
mentioned earlier, Malkin.
Yeah. So you've got a guy here who is his contemporary in Crosby, 600 goals, like tons of points. So he's slowly creeping up the point charts. 600 goals is nothing to sneeze at. That's not insulting. 3 Stanley Cups. So he's got that. He's got the gold medal in the Olympics. He's got the golden goal. He's got this. He's got that. He's got all the international accolades too. So he's got all that stuff to go along with it. So first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. A lot of his, again, it's not expensive, but there's still room for it to creep up over time, slowly over time to creep. Well, that's not exciting, is it? You're not going to double your money overnight. It's just not going to happen. There's nothing he can do now to double your money. If one of these other guys hits and you happen to pull, if you had pulled a Bedard during the absolute apex of his hysteria, you pull one of the big Bedard cards, you make bank right away, immediately. So you hit the lotto ticket, you hit the scratch ticket, whatever. Instant gratification. You sell it and you make the big money today. And if you're smart, you're selling it because you don't want to hold it for 5-10 years. You're not interested in what happens 5 or 10 years from now. He could be a 10-time All-Star, but who cares? You're probably not going to get your money back because he's starting so high. You've got no shot. There's nothing you can do.
And I think a lot of the today way is what's pushed me, like I said earlier, it pushed me into having the patience and changing the way I was going about things, because to be honest, I'm not the scratch off ticket guy. I don't play the Powerball. Like, I bought Powerball tickets probably less than 5 times in my life, and that's when the thing had so many commas that I didn't even really know what the digits were.
Exactly.
It was that, okay, well, I'll throw $5 at it just in case, right? I always look at it as, yeah, I'm not going to win the lottery, but I'm also not going to lose money playing it. So I think when this has all became more of that slot machine, that gambling, and yes, it's fun opening packs. Yes, there's a rush when you hit a nice card. Let's be honest, we've done it. It's enjoyable, but at the same time, like, chasing the rat race over and over, and again, if you're trying to buy somebody or collect it all, and it's one of these newer guys, you're basically taking a shot that in the likelihood that you're probably going to wind up losing money. And that's why I mentioned the Robertson thing and the way that all played out. That was a big eye opener there, because I have lost. I don't want to say I've lost money because they're cards I'm glad that I own, but in a sense, I've lost money because if I had just waited, I could have obtained them much cheaper. So, looking at that, it's really, really changed the pattern of the way I've gone about things. So, and I'm just curious how long this lasts on the way that things are going right now. Will it shift back maybe to pre-pandemic era where, there was stuff there was rookies that had value, there was people hyped, there was the prospects in baseball, all that sort of thing, but we let them grow. It wasn't like this kid that hadn't even swung a bat yet, people were paying $1 million for. It was, okay, when he gets called up, he might get a bump and a rush or whatever. So I'm just curious if it'll ever shift back, or if we've entered full casino mode.
So I'll just say I think we've entered casino mode fully for a while now, and I think we're kind of there. However, let's play the hypothetical for a second, just for fun. Let's play the hypothetical. Let's say you did. Let's say you roll it back a little bit, and you say you're going to let the kids develop. You're going to let the kids play. You're not going to go lose all your minds over the next rookie for this next cycle. We're going to give it a little bit of a rest. I don't think the box prices are going to adjust fast enough to adapt for that.
Oh, no.
So this here's the thing though. If the rookie hype doesn't play into that, if you can't bank that because everybody is doing a wait and see approach, right, you've got yet one more thing that doesn't let you get your box price back. Oh, now you're quadruple screwed.
There's definitely an imbalance for it to adjust back, because you're not buying the $70 boxes anymore. Those are $250 now. So yeah. I
when the box
agree
price
there.
is more
100%.
reasonable, it actually allows you a little bit of air to be able to do
Mhm.
that because then, okay, so if this rookie is $10 right now, but the box is $100, okay, that's not the end of the world. If he gets good down the road, then that's great. It becomes a $40 or $50 card. Hey, I made most of my money back on the box. But if it's a $300 or $400 box, that $10 rookie isn't going to do any damn good at all. Like
Yep.
you're SOL. You're dead in the water. So it's almost like the hype pushed the boxes to a certain point, the products to a certain point, and now we
The
can't put the
bounties.
toothpaste back in the tube. Yep.
The
And now we
bounties
can't put the toothpaste back in the
have been
tube.
a lot of it.
Yeah. And it's a chicken or the egg situation. Now the box price is so high, Brandon. I need the rookie to be $150 out of the box.
Yep.
I don't have a choice. I need it to be there just to justify the box price that I'm getting.
Yep. And
Do you
that's
get what
why
I'm
you're
saying?
seeing 6,000 or 16,000 or whatever it was Bedard, populations, because it's all right. I hit it. Let's send it. Let's hope, we spin the wheel, get to 10. Let's get it on eBay. Let's get it sold.
Yeah.
I've sold some stuff that I look at and I'm like, holy shit, people lost a ton of money on it. Um, a kid named Kevin Maitan, if you follow baseball, you might remember him, or you might go, who in the hell is that guy? I was buying
I think
27.
Eric was telling me he was the first NBA 3-pointer guy, I think.
No.
He might have if he was lucky, but no, he was in the 2017 Bowman product, the one
Yep.
that had the Shohei Ohtani Japanese card in the mega boxes. And I
Okay.
bought a couple of them. They were $15 at the time at Target. And I bought a couple of them trying to get the Ohtani out of it. And I wound up hitting the 101 black auto of Kevin Maitan, who was an Atlanta Braves prospect, higher ranked than Ronald Acuna actually was. And I sold that, I think, for 37.50 or 27.50, something like that, within an hour after listing it on eBay. And he wound up being one of the ones that got tied up in the Braves scouting or paying people, whatever happened, and he wound up on the Angels and never made it anywhere. Um, Another one was the Justin Herbert auto that I hit in a break, and a guy messaged me on Instagram, "Hey, would you take 6,800 for this?" Well, sure, have it. He sends it in, gets it graded, sends it to Probstein for auction. Gets the 1010 PSA on it, sends it to Probstein to auction. It sells for $4,400. The guy lost 2,400 immediately just off the sale price. Take out the fees, whatever the consignment cost, and the grading. I mean, what did he lose? 3,000 plus
Right.
right out the gate, and that was buying it, sending it, getting it back quickly, and auctioning it. And it's like, holy hell! But that's the lotto ticket part of it. So I don't know. I'm having a hell of a lot more fun than I'm glad things have settled down, and I don't know. I didn't sell my Obies though. I didn't sell my Obies.
Mm.
I
It is what it
honestly
is.
did. I don't like doing that because if it's something that I bought and I really wanted to keep, I don't want to sell to try to buy it back because we can't predict the future, And I bought it in it. I'm into them at a good price, so I'm happy with just having them on the shelf.
Well, I think if you got it at a good enough price, then fine, whatever. But I think there's some stuff that you can definitely buy back. Some of this stuff will definitely not have an issue long term. But that's the reason why I posed the question. My question really came down to the idea that we have taken the toothpaste out of the tube. We've pushed the
Mm-hmm.
boundaries so far that it's a chicken or the egg situation. Now you need the things to be hyped up to push the price to justify the box price.
Yep.
And it's created like this whole chain reaction. Like we've talked about each product we run into that same problem. We talked about it with the case hits for EX2000. What's the
Yep.
problem with and here's the thing. I'm kind of curious about this, and this is where it's going to be interesting for me. I didn't realize it until I dug into it deeper. And like I said, I mentioned that the SPX is going to be the new one that's going to come out. And I'll just show you guys just for fun here we'll finish off here on this. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. This was a full hockey episode. So if nobody watches it, I'm blaming Eric. Then we know nobody cares about the hockeys.
139.
This is 139 Canadian. So I want to give you the
That's not
configuration
bad.
though. It's not bad, but I want to give you the configuration because this is kind of curious for me. And I got to be honest with you. I was when it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, Eric, That sounds almost downright reasonable.
6 cards.
No, it's not 6 cards. It's 24 cards. It's 3 cards per pack, 8 packs per box.
That said 2.
Oh,
I thought it said
Nope.
2 packs.
Yeah,
there are 8 packs of 3 cards each. So is that a lot? No, but I'm also talking 140 Canadian, which is
with
not
everything
terrible.
being relative.
Exactly.
And what we've been seeing
recently,
which is just, freaking obnoxious and gross. That seems to make a little bit more sense, and that's sad.
Brandon, it's downright hashtag bargain.
And
look at this. Sad. That's how bad it's gotten, Brandon. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, that exactly. So we're on the same page. So yes,
the thing is,
that is a good deal. Looking at everything, and comparing it to everything, that is a good deal. However, it's a shame that that's a good deal.
Well, the other thing is, I'm pretty sure those are only going to have, one auto? And if memory serves me, a lot of the SPX stuff doesn't sell very well.
Historically, no. But I think what's going to be interesting is that, like I said, they actually changed the configuration. So I'll tell you right now, I'll pull it up here. It'll take me a second. But the the last couple of years, SPX was actually one of those 1-pack products. So that's why it kind of caught me by surprise that they adjusted the configuration. So this is actually a different setup than the last couple of times through, because it was previously a 1-pack, 6 cards per pack product. So I was like, okay, so they kind of went the other way on this one. So let me just pull up here. I'm going to find what's in a box here. So what to expect in a box. So it looks like 2 finite cards, hologram cards, gold parallels, silver parallels, base rookies. So I don't think you're guaranteed an insert. I think it's one of those deals where, I'm looking 1 in 40 hobby packs. Yeah, so you're not guaranteed an autograph.
Oh.
Well, actually, let me double check that. Hold on. That's an insert here. Yeah, I don't think you're guaranteed an autograph. So here's your price. That price point is not terrible, but you're not guaranteed an autograph.
Oh.
So here's your question, Brandon. $140, no guaranteed autograph, or $300 in 1 guaranteed autograph? Thoughts?
So what are they, what? So it's basically just going to be a parallel of a base card is what you're likely going to get, or relic?
So I'll show you. I'll do so this is bonus, folks. If you watch the AMG one, I'll go into it in more depth, but we can do a quick rundown here. We'll do a quick review. So right now I've gone to Eric's favorite website, Beckett. So here it is. We've got it. So here's the checklist, team sets, details. Okay, so we're gonna go through. So right here you got 175 card base set. So you got your base set, 100 veterans, 60 rookies, 15 short print rookie holograms. So here's the Stankoven as an example of one of the base cards. This is a base card. So that's an example of one.
He's not even in his current team uni.
Yeah. So right now, then you got your parallels. So you got silver, parallels, gold, radiance out of 100, grand finale out of 50, silver out of 25, and gold spectrums. So you've got a little different combination. So there's as an example. Some of them do have autograph versions of them. So here you go. Signatures are part of the chase. That said, they're not among the hobby products hobby box guarantees. So they specifically put that in a line right here. Superscripts 160 packs, rookie superscripts 120 packs. So it looks like the autographs are going to be depending on which one you look.
Go back up. A little bit further. So rookie superscripts 1 in 120 packs. So that's
you're getting 8 packs per box. So
yeah, holy hell.
Yep. That's why I asked you a moment, Brandon. $140 box, no guaranteed autos, or $300 box with guaranteed autos. Which one do you prefer?
HoloView FX returns with both veteran and rookies. So you get a HoloView.
Yep. So you're getting some parallels. You've got some game film examples, Bound for Glory. You got some of the hologram stuff as well. You got that thing going on. By the way, some of these singles are going to be fine. When you check out those individual singles, it's going to be all right. But yeah, you got your 3 packs per cards per pack, your 8 packs per box. So it's 24 cards in a box. And then
so it's it's almost a case hit to hit an auto because there's 160 packs in a case.
Correct.
So it's nearly a case hit to get an auto.
Uh-huh. So I'm going to ask you again, Brandon.
And that's
what
$2,000 for a case.
So Eric, here's my favorite part. This is what gives me joy. This is what fills my life with.
Okay,
it really is what gives me joy.
All
because when our good friends at Upper Deck do something like this, and you see a price that seems reasonable, it's like the monkey's paw. What price have you just paid? It's like they gave you a box price that's more reasonable. They gave you more cards. Yep. What's the catch? The catch is to get an autograph, and there's no memorabilia. So to get an autograph of anything that's not a base card, an insert, or a parallel, to get anything outside of that is like a case hit. So
I thought SPX had the I can't remember the Pride of a Nation, and then I thought they also had the.
You're talking about the UD Black?
UD Black? Yeah, with the silver ink on them.
In some years, but not in this one.
Oh, that sucks.
But Brandon, the box is cheaper. But the box is cheaper. But the box is cheaper. Aren't you happy? Are we good?
That's a pass. And I know that I sound
Eric,
like
there's just no pleasing these folks. There's just no pleasing these people. Oh. We all know they want $200, $300, $400 boxes. I know that's what they want.
Well, I mean, I put it in. We had the discussion in the Discord.
Yeah,
I watched the videos Ziri did recently, and he had an inner of Upper Deck Clear Cut, and I know that product historically has never been, anything of significance. Some people like it, some people hate it, but he opened 5 boxes, and I'm pretty sure he said that they started around 200 Canadian, I think, but they've came down, and he said in U.S. terms right now they're around 95 U.S.
Which is a ripoff, by the way, because you can probably get it for 100 Canadian.
Well, he said at the time he recorded, and I don't know how far off he records his videos, but he said it was around 95 US. But when I watched him open the 5 boxes, he put the approximate prices on the screen of the cards he pulled. Now, keep in mind, this was just the 5 boxes. He didn't open the full inner.
Yep.
But he might have gotten. I'm gonna go conservative here. Bump him up a little bit. Maybe 120 Canadian in value. I know 2 of the cards he pulled. It was like one was $4 Canadian. One he said was like $5 or $7 Canadian. Mm-hmm. And then he had like Matthew Tkachuk that he said was like $50 Canadian. Another one I think he said was 35 or 40, and then another one that might have been $20. So somewhere in the vicinity of 120 Canadian, which is what, maybe 95 US, something like that.
If you're saying 120 Canadian, probably like 70, 80.
Okay, so he opened 5 boxes to get less than 1 box worth of value.
Yeah,
I mean that's insane. You're not even getting a 20% return, and that's a discounted box price.
So Brandon, this is why I wanted to finish off on this. So I'm serious. I actually want to have a quick discussion on this. So this is a conversation that we've had on the podcast before, on the live stream before, and I wanted to pose the question again here. I want to open it up. Everyone complains about the price of the boxes, which is legitimate because they're exorbitant. They're crazy. There's a lot of them that just don't make any sense and it's not valid. But then in their minds, they say to themselves, oh, well, the solution is we just need to bring these box prices back down to where they were before. But my contention has been the market will oftentimes adjust the singles down as well accordingly. Mm-hmm. So even though when you paid for your $500 box and you got $100 worth of cards, and you got destroyed, you lost 80%. That really sucks. But if I make the card $100 and you get $20 worth and you lost 80%, did I actually fix your problem? I made the numbers more palatable, but you still lost 80%. It's easier
to swallow losing $80 than it is $400, I guess.
I'm with you. But the thing is, then in your mind, you're thinking, oh, well, now because it's $100, now I can buy 5 of them and I got a better shot. And you still lost your $400.
Some people are like that. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. So that's the only reason the only reason, Brandon, I'm asking this question is that I'm saying, so did it fix it that I made the price point for every one of the scratch off tickets lower, but you still lost your ass, as opposed to making the ticket more expensive and you still lost your ass? Did it fix
Yeah,
the
I don't
problem?
know. We're in a crazy time.
Yeah. I don't think it fixed Eric. I don't think it fixed the problem. I just think I think I shuffled the chairs a little bit just to make it look different, but I don't think I've fixed your issue here.
You
Here's
shuffled
my
the
here's an
chairs,
honest
Titanic
question.
still sinking.
The Titanic has very much. The Titanic is not only the Titanic has sunk. The Titanic is coral reef. James Cameron has made a movie about it.
Yes.
Here's a serious question though, and I don't want to drag this on too far, but let's use that SPX as an example.
Yep.
Yes, it is an affordable price point. Okay.
Relatively speaking, it very much is. Yeah.
Right. But who in the hell is out to collect the SPX base set to pay that price point per box, knowing that the likelihood that they're getting out of it is, what did we say, a silver something another? I mean, this has to be hurting sales. And we've discussed this before where these shops are having to buy some of these products that they can't get rid of. And I just don't know who, like, even the breakers, we're sitting there talking about the odds of being an auto and maybe one per the 20 box case. How in the hell is a breaker? Because they're going to, it said 2 inners of 10 boxes, right?
Yep.
They're normally going to do the breaks as 10, as 2 different inners. So you're going to run a break where not a damn soul is going to even really get anything? Like, how are you going to sell that to people? I just don't, like, the sales have to be declining on, I mean, Upper Deck might be fine because especially if they're forcing in people buying it, but the shop ends, it has to be hitting them somehow because, like, I just don't know who's buying it. I mean, you spoke on it even outside of hockey with the wrestling stuff. I mean, you're getting it at a big discount because it's not moving. So is it a sport problem? Is it a hobby problem? Is it an Upper Deck problem? I mean, I don't know which direction we go on with it.
I think each company, so answering you seriously, I think each company has a different challenge with value proposition. The irony is that a lot of people complain about Panini and all the parallels, all the color. But the thing is, the color allows the perception of value. And while it might not fill the value, it allows you then to mitigate because you can take some of those parallels and things depending on what the character or player is or whatever it is, and you can move some of that. Like I can tell you for a fact I've been able to move some of it, but it depends on what it is. With the AEW, it's hit a certain threshold where now the market has adjusted. At a certain point, the spread was so good that if you could get the boxes discounted enough, you could make it work on singles. Because I wasn't doing breaks. I wasn't doing breaks for other people. I was breaking for me. I was opening the boxes myself, pulling out whatever came out of it, and then I would break it down and go, okay, so I got a couple of cards of these characters. I know somebody who collects this. Hey, I pulled this. Are you interested? Yeah, man, I'd take it. Okay, cool. I want this amount. No problem. Done. So I'd have a bunch of stuff sold off immediately, and then I'd start filling in the blanks with eBay stuff and the other things. But as the price point steadily started to drop on the resale on a lot of the stuff, every series that came out got less and less hype, less and less drive, and the box prices really don't change. So now, even a discount, even at sale price, even at closeout pricing, you're still not really. I wouldn't for the new products. I opened 2.5 cases of the 22 Allure. The 24 Allure came out. I opened a couple boxes. I might open a few more boxes down the road, but I'm not touching a case. I'm not touching an inner. I'm not touching a full case.
And that product that you just showed, the SPX, that's 23, 24. So
Well,
That's not
that one's
even
24-25. That one's 24-25.
okay. So, yeah, I mean, who's the chasing that as far as rookie Celebrini?
I think so. I think that'd be it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That it'll be interesting to see. But
Yeah. But that's why I think like that's why I say like there is that's why I use the monkey's paw analogy. I'm like, listen, this is a devil's bargain here, man. You guys you said the boxes were too expensive, and I agree with you. But now we brought it to a price point, which US dollars, by the way, it's going to be like 110, which on paper doesn't sound like horrific. Like it's, it doesn't sound like $110 for a hobby box. Okay, ish. Sure. Okay. That doesn't like I've seen worse, certainly. But then you go like, but what's inside? Oh, I mean, you're like, oh, wait,
yeah,
that's what's in it? Oh,
Yeah,
oh
it's,
I
no.
guess there might be 2 autos per
it's
page.
basically base cards.
Yeah, for a chunk. Now the good news is, my good friend. Listen, someone I don't know who did SPX, Eric, but let me tell you, if it's somebody who rhymes with Willie Billio, we're gonna have words. We're gonna have words. That's
Oh,
all I'm
not
saying.
words. Come on.
Or we're gonna have words. Look, they put in 96, 97 SPX buyback autographs. Son of a bitch! They put the Medano in there, number 9. Of course you did. Son of a bitch.
Well, you've never even seen the autographics.
Well, I'm still waiting on that one too. Well, the irony, Brandon, talking about what we were just talking about, more people got to open boxes for me to see the autographics. It's the chicken or the egg situation. It's the chicken or the egg situation.
I'm really glad that I grabbed that 10 out of 10, Robertson, because I have a search for EX, Jason Robertson, and I check it a couple times a day, and there's like hardly any. I'll sort it to new listings. There's hardly anything popping up. Like I guess the Brandon, product's already dead. This is
the last thought I want to leave here. Kind of the reason why I wanted to finish with this box conversation. It plays into the discussion we've had the last couple of weeks. So on the hockey episode, we'll finish with the thought on the hockeys relating to this. It's great to say get the singles. From a financial standpoint, I could not agree with you more. The problem is I still, if I'm a singles buyer, I'll represent singles buyers here. I still need someone to open these boxes. Somebody's got to take the hit, or there are no singles. Like somebody's got to open them, or we don't get singles, man.
Yep.
So that's the problem. Like at a certain point, if you make it so the boxes are unopenable because they're sitting there, but you're like, I'm not paying that for it, so I'm not going to open it. And then we all agree nobody's opening it. Who's going to get the singles?
Prime definition of manufactured scarcity. Manufactured it so nobody opens the shit, so everything is scarce.
I blame SPC. I blame Boston Centennial. It was like the ultimate. Every single card is a 1 of 1 because no one will open it. Every card. That's why Eric couldn't find the lemon M&Ms. They made 5 million of them, but the problem is they're all still in the packs. All of them.
No.
There's several packs that are only lemon M&M autographs.
Yeah,
that's all there is.
I think this is just a hobby problem right now. We put the horse, we got the cart ahead of the horse, and shit's just out of balance.
Yeah,
we need a reset button.
Well, we need a lot of things, man. We need a role model. We need an intervention. We need a lot of things. And for the record, an 96-97 SPX buyback autograph, that sounds cool. I'm never going to see it, but it sounds cool. I'm not holding my breath. I'm going to see the damn thing, but sure. Hey, why not? Maybe someday, Eric. Someday. Maybe someday I'll see this damn card if it exists. It's hypothetically sitting in a pack somewhere. And that's why it was the sad part, Brandon, is that at that price point, I would probably have opened a boxers for kicks. And maybe if I go to Expo and somebody has it on sale for like I'll take a stab at it. Why not? Like if I can get it cheap enough to knock a little bit off the price more, sure. What the hell? But just open a box. But it's like, whoo, I don't know, man. I don't know. But otherwise, how are we going to get these boxes open then? How are we supposed to get these singles if no one opens the boxes?
It's like, I mean, I don't know that it's still in a pack, but it's like me chasing the Michael Taylor Superfractor auto. Like my wife's literally bought me boxes for Christmas to open to try to hit it because I've yet to see a picture of it anywhere. I've never seen it popped up. There's no sales history. Can't find it online anywhere. So I can only assume it's still tucked away in a pack somewhere, or it's in a box because somebody hit it and just tossed it aside because it didn't make them $1 million. Who knows? But there's always that unknown element to it, and when the stuff's not getting open, it makes the stuff harder to find. So, but I guess as a collector, it keeps us chasing. So there's always.
So it would seem. On that bombshell, so you're saying we're not going thirdsies on an SPX case? Is what you're saying?
Hey, Eric.
maybe we get Eric's like button money on this. Brandon, is there any kind of a write-off we can do? For science or something? Like, I don't know.
Is there a Cole Robertson in there by chance?
Oh, there is. Look, I checked the checklist. There are some decent. Look, I guarantee you, there's some decent Robertsons in there. I don't know if you'll ever see them, but they're there hypothetically. Yeah. They're there hypothetically. Like, I don't know. Like, listen, you want you got all-time Hall of View. By the way, you also got a Sergei Zubov all-time Hall of View. I love me some Sergei Zubov. That's classic. That's nice. Always appreciate that. You got Bound for Glory, Jason Robertson. I didn't see any images of that, but there's a Bound for Glory. That seems good. That should probably be all right. You got your Finites. You got a Force quad, Wyatt Johnson, Jason Robertson, Jamie Benn, the Renaissance, and Rupe Hintz. Like that.
That's cool.
Force autographs. I'm sure some of these cards will look. By the way, for jokes aside, I'm sure some of these cards will look perfectly fine. I'm sure some of these cards will look cool.
Yeah, I love the ones like I was talking about, the Pride of the Nation, and those other ones, the Black Lustrous with the the full black with the silver ink, and those I love those. But oh well,
it is what it is. It is what it is. But anyway, all right. So I think that we'll call it there. So hopefully you folks enjoyed. That was over 2 hours on the Hockeys. Eric, I hope you appreciated. This was your moment. This was your golden moment to shine. Do you have any last words for us on the Hockeys episode?
It was nice to talk the Hockeys. I think we made a lot of good points. I still question what we were just discussing about spending so much money for boxes of cards. I'll just never ever.
No, Eric, we were talking about buying a case. With your money is what we were talking about.
No. 20 or 10
bucks. It's 20 boxes. 20 boxes, not a box. We were talking about 20 boxes.
Cases. I am not.
Boxes.
No.
It's like 700 a piece, Eric.
Eric, no. If we open the case, we might have the only singles on the market. It's like every card's a 1-of-1 because no one else will open
it. I'm good.
Wow.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Opportunity missed. Hashtag invest missed.
No.
Opportunity gone. No. Man,
you have to do it without me, boys.
Brutal.
Damn.
Hey, the man couldn't forego a chocolate stick a day to get us to great fortune.
No, I'm not giving that up.
Wow. So anyway, congrats to Ovi on 895. Keep going. Let's see if you can get the 900. Go for it. Hey, it'd be good to found the 900 Gold Club. That'd be cool. I think that'd be fun for all of us. And it's history either way. So very good. And then good luck to the folks that have been selling the Ovies. Hopefully you all get paid for it now that he's already scored the goals. So hopefully you all get paid, for ones that are already in progress. We will check in next week to see what the sales look like in the previous week post record break. Because I think it'll be interesting to look at how it went in the couple of days leading up to it. And then with the record being broken over the weekend. And then in this week, I think we'll look forward to that. Also, a couple of quick programming notes. In the next couple of weeks, we'll announce it. The week of the Expo, which I think is going to be, I think the episode is on the 21st, if I read my calendar correctly. So on the 21st, yes. So on the 21st, we'll record the episode. It's actually Easter Monday. But we discussed it. So apparently we don't care about the Easters. So that will be a live episode. Bonus. So that'll be on Expo week, like Shark Week, but lamer. So that will be a live episode where we'll talk our random brand of nonsense. We may even let Eric show some of the Hockeys. No promises. We'll see.
I got lots of them to show.
I'm just saying. we may allow it. So that will be a live episode, so that I at least guarantee that I will have a live stream on this channel on that week, and I will attempt for a second episode. Usually I'm pretty good for it, but I just want to make sure we're covered. We will have a live episode for sure on the Monday, potentially a second live episode during the week, later on in the week during the expo itself. And then there'll be videos for sure coming up on the expo as things happen, because there'll be some happenings and we'll have some fun with it. Spring is a little bit more chill, but it's an opportunity for us to potentially leave a couple of words in Lawrence Taylor's ear that of all the horrible things Eric was saying about him.
Nope.
I just wish Eric had not been said so many horrible things about Lawrence Taylor. He seems like a fine fellow, but nonetheless, Eric just doesn't seem to like the man. He thinks he can fight him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He does tend to pick a lot of fights, Brandon. You know, for a show involved with men of peace, Eric is trying to unleash the dogs of war. That seems to be an issue. But anyway, it is what it is. So, more videos coming up on the channel. Live streams generally on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The longest running episodic, whatever the hell it is, we still don't know. We'll figure it out someday. For Brandon, Bobbles, and Ball Cards, Eric Sanderson DeOr, send all your complaints to him via Instagram. Links in the description to everything we talked about, AMG, as well as everything else. And that is it for us. We will catch you in the next one.